Just woke up. Just woke up. Why are you so ugly? At least I'm more attractive than you are. Okay, I could be worse. Could look like you. Well, plastic? Oh, it's so sweet of you. You think I'm perfect? Thank you. You practice crap while she's offline? No, he just faps like he is now, typing with one hand. If he didn't think I was cute, he wouldn't have clicked. It wouldn't be on the notification squad. You know he's obsessed with me. Fucking faps. Puts fap juice in his sandwich as a mayonnaise that he has to make himself because no bitch wants him. How puppy's doing? You're doing great. Woof woof. Alright. Nice little gelato breakfast. Refreshing in the summertime. No, I didn't see this one. It's from a long time ago, though.
What happens when you put several ant colonies together? Will they engage in war? Or will they join forces? In ant keeping, it's a golden rule to never mix your ant colonies together, even if they are the same species, because most ant colonies will fight. And it's cruel. You see, each ant colony carries its own distinct colony scent, like an ID badge. And if two teams of ants with different colony scents happen to come together, by way of overlapping territory for example, it would lead to a lethal ant war. However, there are some cases where this golden rule does not apply. This week, I tried my luck and put together 7 young ant colonies of mine that I've been raising over the past 67 days, together in a single living space to see what they do. Did the ants go to war? Or did they do what I had hoped they would and join forces to form one huge super colony? The result was just jaw-dropping and something I totally didn't expect to happen at all.
They fucked,
Welcome
had an orgy,
to the Ants Canada,
and still fought and killed each other after.
Please subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon. Welcome to the AC family. Enjoy. AC family, okay. Before any of you start freaking out and bashing me for ant cruelty, I have a few things to explain as to why I figured the odds of such an experiment were in my favor. Do keep on watching until the end though, as I have an important question to ask all of you.
He gets away with this shit because the police don't come after you when you abuse ants.
And we'll be needing your opinions.
They let you abuse ants by buying poison at the store.
On something very important. Now, before I go over my reasons for performing such a controversial experiment, and then proceed to attempt the mixing of 7 ant colonies together, let's do a quick recap for those who are new and are just joining us. These are our 8 young carpenter ant colonies, each colony exactly 67 days old. Within each test tube is a queen, her first generation of worker ants, known as nanitics, and brood. I captured each queen 67 days ago during their annual mating nuptial flight. Placed them into test tubes to simulate the claustral chamber which the queens would have created in the wild. And each queen spent 67 days laying eggs and eventually raising them to adult nanitics. Now the initial plan when I first started this journey was to simply capture as many queens as I could. I caught 14 in total, and see how many of them would go on to found successful ant colonies. I knew that in nature, not all queen ants successfully make it to the colony founding stage. And in fact, at the start, I wasn't sure if any of my 14 queens captured would successfully found an ant colony. 6 of the queens ended up non-successful at even making it to the egg-laying stage. Some died of natural causes like mold, mites, and even parasitic maggots. But then, as the remaining 8 queens started proving their colony founding prowess, I began to realize that, okay, I won't be able to keep all these ant colonies. And in my mind, I figured I'd have to release some, or all but one of the colonies back into the wild. It was sad to think, as over the past 2+ months, I'd really grown attached to each of the ant colonies under our care. But then, after thinking about it this week, an awesome idea came to me that was pretty crazy, but just might actually work. AC family, listen to this. So here's why I thought this experiment was a pretty good idea. So quick ant biology lesson, most ant species have colonies that are called monogynous, which means the ant colonies contain only one egg-laying queen, who lays all the eggs and is the mother of the entire colony. Like fire ants, where there is a single queen ant and her millions of workers and babies. That's just how fire ants operate, and non-negotiably, there is definitely no way a fire ant colony will adopt or accept a second.
Oh wait, I figured out what I saw yesterday. Hold on. On that bush, I think. This webworms. That's what we saw. These are crazy looking.
In this video, we'll show you how to identify fall webworms, how to get rid of fall webworms, and how to prevent fall webworms from coming back. To shop for the products featured in this video and to learn more about stressors to webworms.
They're crazy looking.
Pests will consume leaves, and their webs can strangle new growth, creating visually unappealing blemishes and adding additional stressors to plants that may not have the best health. In this video, we'll show you how to identify fall webworms, how to get rid of fall webworms, and how to prevent fall webworms from coming back. To shop for the products featured in this video and to learn more about pest control, click the links in the video's description and get free shipping on your order. The first thing you should do in any pest control plan is identify what exactly you're dealing with. For this identification,
Crazy. Who barking?
Hi everyone, Savannah Tree Foundation Field Manager Jake Henry here, and today we're looking at a pest of tree species. The tree that we're actually looking at right here is a red mulberry, or Morus rubra. It's already dropped all its fruit. You know, we're pretty late around the tip of this branch. And this is caused, looks like a screen.
The ones that we saw yesterday was a huge
and this is all
nest.
Material. Now, I did mention that they are a pest. Obviously, this does cause some damage to the tree itself. You can see, you know, some of the leaves here have died. But in an otherwise healthy tree, this really isn't going to cause a significant amount of damage. So we always have to talk about what pests overall are affecting a tree. Usually it's not just one cause. It could be a culmination of factors, a culmination of stressors that actually cause.
Our trees here in central Texas have suffered from freezes, from the heat, and from the drought. But there's one tree that has also suffered a bit because of a nuisance moth. It's called a webworm.
A webworm is just a caterpillar that sets up a web on a pecan tree.
The webworm makes the trees unsightly, but does not impact the pecans themselves.
Typically the end of July is when you're going to start to really see them. There's two generations in that late July, early August time is when they're really going to come out heavy.
What they do is construct a web over the end of a pecan tree's branches and feed on them. The webworm does this for up to 6 weeks, but the webs remain after the larvae are gone, leaving the trees a little worse for wear. Past treatment included spraying with a broad-spectrum insecticide, but
It's a pecan tree, and we don't really want to be putting any chemicals on pecans that people or animals might eat.
what is the best way to treat them?
Prune them out in the early spring. Do a dormant oil treatment. Just an insecticidal soap to kind of wash the eggs off the big parts of the pecan branches.
Bats, birds, and spiders are enemies of the webworm, as well as other insects. Rich Siegel, KXAN News.
Let me show you the one that we saw. It
From the
was
drought.
huge. Way bigger. Let me see. Oh, no, I don't need the sound. You see this? We're doing like a whole fucking U of a tree. Like a U-shaped one. That's fucked up looking. And then, look at the worms. It was nasty looking. Shit was gross.
But there's one tree that has also suffered a bit because of a nuisance moth. It's called a webworm.
A webworm is just a caterpillar that
Little
sets up a
fuckers.
web.
Egg-laying queen ant in the colony. Furthermore, only related colony members are allowed in the nest, so fire ant workers from another colony are not allowed to join forces. Two fire ant colonies coming together, as we've seen in a past video, will engage in a bloody war. There are, however, also ant species which are considered polygynous, meaning they do tolerate multiple queens in a colony, like in weaver ants, where there could be dozens, even hundreds of queens, all laying eggs in a single ant colony. The workers just take care and serve all queens. Our yellow crazy ant colony, the Golden Empire, is another example where there are lots of queen ants in the colony, and they are so polygynous that even if two unrelated yellow crazy ant colonies are placed together, they kind of go into a quick wrestling match, but then decide to join forces, accepting all new queens and blending harmoniously to form a super colony, which we've seen happen a couple times on this channel already with our Golden Empire. And so going back to our carpenter ants, there are actually carpenter ant species which are polygynous. In terms of the carpenter ant species we are keeping, I don't have an exact species ID on them yet, But there are carpenter ant species in my country that are known to be polygynous. In fact,
Make it bigger. What is it, little baby? What is it? What is it? What is it? What's going on? What do you need? What is it, baby? What's up, baby? I got Ella with me. You grab Ryder. My little baby. My little girl.
Hey, what are you doing?
My baby girl. My baby girl. My baby girl. What? Mm-hmm. You're so sweet. You're so sweet. You're so sweet. You're sweet. Look at the tummy rubs. Can take a spot here? Oh, yeah. What's up, little girl? Oh, what's up, little sweetie? Little girl. You're so cute. He's just such a cute age. What are you looking away for? Look at me. Yeah. Ooh. I'm gonna go over there. I'm gonna go potty.
we've kept them before on the channel, if you recall the lumberjacks. Now, if you remember the first video, the nuptial flight of these ants kind of occurred inside my room, a cottage I'm currently staying at in the middle of a mountain rainforest. And over time, I have been spotting evidence around my place
This was
of the main carpenter ant colony
2 years
from
ago.
which our queens and or the males that mated with them most likely came from. In the mornings, I would always find bits of sawdust in certain places, discarded as a result of the ants' tunneling activities in the wooden structures of my place. And at night, I spotted carpenter ants forming active foraging trails around my kitchen. These carpenter ants, which were definitely the same species as ours, were a pest species and well adapted to living in domestic spaces. I then began to wonder if the mating nuptial flights of this species of carpenter ant can happen indoors. And assuming an ant colony sends out hundreds of these queen ants, and knowing the success rate that we've seen from a 14 queen sample is about 57% that a queen will successfully mate and go on to found an ant colony, then the chances of 2 or more carpenter ant colonies coming together naturally and overlapping in real estate is pretty high, I'd say. Now, I've never seen a carpenter ant war in my place so far, and so my hunch was that a handful of mated queen ants of this species of carpenter ant end up founding ant colonies somewhere in the walls and form one massive ant colony. I mean, think about it. Where else could the queen ants go to found their ant colonies and not expect to run into a bunch of its sister queens' colonies if they were limited to just this cottage? My guess was that they simply all blend together and form a super colony. Now, if my hunch was correct, and these ants of ours were truly a polygynous species, whose colonies can combine together to form super colonies, then I could actually end up keeping all the ant colonies and not have to release them. I could just combine them into one huge colony. That would be totally awesome. And the dream of having a polygynous carpenter ant colony with all these egg-laying queens laying tons of eggs made my ant-loving mouth water. Imagine the massive ant setup we could build with wood and glass. Anyway, a third possibility is that the ants from the different colonies simply tolerate each other, being around, but don't actually mix. In this case, the ants would choose coexistence, which would also be quite cool, but I don't know how long I'd be able to keep the colonies together in one setup as they grew if that was the case. So, was it risky putting the ants together? Yes. But for me, AC family, the odds were in our favor, and it was worth testing out in a controlled way, for science. What do you guys think will happen? Will the ants go to war with each other? Or will they choose peace and join forces? Or will they ignore each other and accept coexistence for now? Leave your guesses in the comments, and afterward, go back to your comment and let us know if you were right. And so, AC family, here was my ultimate plan for the great carpenter ant introduction. You guys will love this. AC family, behold, the Campanosium. It's the great arena within which the ant colonies will have the space to wander and explore, and eventually meet in a highly regulated and controlled manner, where I could observe how they interact and separate the ant colonies if needed. There are 8 holes leading into the arena with rubber ports, which perfectly fit the test tubes in which the colonies are currently living. I made sure to keep minimal with the design of the arena for now, so I could have full view of the ants and not have the decor create areas where the ants could be out of view. We can always decorate this space more intricately later. The top lip of the Campanosium had been painted with a layer of baby powder and rubbing alcohol to act as a barrier so the ants don't escape into my room. So my plan was to first connect 2 ant colonies to the Campanosium and observe how they interact before going ahead and adding the other ant colonies. I would not proceed to add the other ant colonies if I noticed they were showing signs of over-aggression or going to war with each other. Now, there are 2 things you should know about this before we proceed with this experiment in the Campanosium. First, if you've been following our previous videos, you will know that I suspect that our 7th ant colony, which today is one of the biggest colonies of the group, with a total of 12 nanitics now, might actually be a different species of carpenter ant from the rest. How weird. The queen is looking right at us. She's just making sure we're friends. But as you can tell, this queen is slightly more red at the head and thorax than the others. Plus she produces brood with naked pupae, which is unique because the other 7 queens produce young that develop into cocooned pupae. Therefore, I have decided not to add colony number 7 to this mixing experiment, as they probably war with the other ants. I'll just hold on to them for now, and we can all decide later whether or not we want to keep them. But man, look at those repletes, will ya? The workers who have volunteered to be the living food stores of the colony, carrying food stored in bulk in their social stomachs for gradual distribution. Love this colony. Alright, now the second thing I needed to point out was that, as you may know, queen number 5 is still raising her brood. As you can see, she's behind the others and just has cocoons. And because of this
speaking of
tardiness,
brood, my white dove that went to clean its nest, and there's actually a chick underneath her. Looks like barely, like, maybe 5 days old.
Alright, I'll dip it out. I'll see it.
Alright, thanks.
Yep.
I'm not sure if it's the laughing dove male or if one of the white-winged doves came into maturity that she raised. But they're not her real babies. They're different species. But she did raise them.
he suspected that she may
Did
not
she
have
feed it regurgitated bird seeds?
made it during nuptial flight. You see, as mentioned in a previous video, due to ant genetics, unmated queens can still lay eggs, but they only become male ants, which would suck because male ants have no purpose in the ant world except wait around to mate, which also means in the normal circumstance, if these huge cocoons, which do look like male ant cocoons, do actually hatch into males, the queen is as good as dead, because the males wouldn't be able to take care of her. The other possibility is that she's been eating some of her eggs over time, so she could invest in fewer, larger workers as her first batch of nanitics. We're still waiting for one of those cocoons to hatch to be able to know for sure. It should be soon because I see eyes darkening, which means hatch day is close. If males do end up hatching from those cocoons, it was sad to think that queen number 5 and all her useless male babies would have to be released into the wild to die. However, if my hunch was correct, and these carpenter ants do band together to form polygynous ant colonies, it would be a complete saving grace for queen number 5 and her sons, because then I could simply introduce them to the other ants, and she would then have proper workers from the other colonies to take care of her and her sons. Sure, queen number 5 wouldn't be able to produce regular worker ants and would just be dead weight for the colony, eating up valuable food and taking up resources, but at least she would live and at least contribute to the colony's male ant population for the next nuptial flight. Having number 5 in the mix also would be a great way to tell if the workers are actually all mixing up and not just sticking to their biological birth colonies. Because if queen number 5 and all her males remain alive, then it means workers from the other colonies are definitely feeding her and her sons. And so this was the plan. Connect 7 of our 8 ant colonies to the Campanosium. But before we go ahead and make the introduction, there was one more thing I needed to do. Food. I placed in a cup of sweet jelly, so the ants had something to do while in the Campanosium. And what better way to bond with new friends than over dinner? Or actually, in the case of these ants, which are nocturnal, breakfast. Also, in terms of the 8th hole, I'm blocking it off with cotton for now, as I can use this opening as a port to connect to other setups in the future. Okay, AC family, here goes nothing. Are you ready? Let's do this. I took colony number 1. Wow, I've always had a special love for colony number 1, probably because it was also one of the largest colonies of the bunch. Also with 12 worker ants now. But guys, have a look at how big the queen is. Last week, before we gave the colony their first meal ever, the queen was a bit skinny, right? But it seems, AC family, after we fed them, it triggered her body to make that biological switch over to full egg production mode. And her gaster was now swollen with upcoming eggs, a condition known as physogastry. I love when queens get physogastric and all fat like a balloon. It's a good
this
sign
guy's a
many more
breeder.
eggs are about to
No.
come. I know a lot of you guys are fans of this colony as well.
He's a feeder and a
I
breeder.
took the colony
Run.
and attached it to the campanosium. Once attached, I now needed to release the ants. However, I didn't want to just rip away the huge cotton blocker because the claustral cell still needs to remain as still and wind-free as possible. So to create the new opening tunnel into the outside world, I have this. A small piece of tubing. I could just fixate it to some cotton, and it could act as a small door for the ants. I placed the tubing door and cotton into the test tube. I held my breath as I watched the first worker ant emerge into the outside world for the first time in its entire life. This was such a special event to witness. Prior to this moment, the ant had only known the test tube claustral cell in which it was born. But nothing was more amazing to this ant than what it was seeing and smelling right now as it stepped onto the campanosium grounds to explore. A second ant came to smell the fresh outside air. The curious brave worker began to wander around. It was at this time that I realized, oh yeah, it's time to add the other doors and block the ends of the tubes with cotton so the ants don't escape. It would also make connecting to the other test tubes much easier when ready. Eventually, the first exploratory ant discovered our sweet jelly and began to feast. The ant filled up its social stomach to the max, and once fat like a water balloon, full of sweet jelly, it began to embark on its way back to the colony. It was at this time that I decided it was now time to add colony number 2. Also an active and very promising ant colony, colony number 2 seemed like they were eager to break free ASAP. Attached. AC family, let's watch. To my surprise, the ants of colony 2 were not as eager to emerge. They waved their antennae outside the door to smell, but didn't come out. But then something happened that made my heart stop. The full ant of colony 1 was heading straight for the opening of colony 2.
Oh no.
2 pairs of antennae touched, but the full ant thought twice about entering that
How
hole
do you keep track?
and headed towards the correct nest opening of its birth colony. Whoa! Okay, so no aggression so far. That was a good sign. Inside colony number 1, the brave exploratory worker told its entire colony of the awesome food it found just outside the nest and began to regurgitate it up to have the rest of the colony have a taste. This nanitic had done the colony proud. They would be sending out more scouts soon. But as for colony number 2, still no emergence. Just antennae poking out. Perhaps they weren't ready? Colony number 1 sent out its second scout. It crawled bravely across the barren rocky surface of the campanosium, following the pheromonal trail the last scout left.
You don't have to tell me about the Lord, okay? I am a Jesus Christ simp. I always tell people to come as they are, alright?
On its way back home, all the way to the goods. Bingo! It stopped to fill up. And also made its way back home. Like the first scout before it, it began to regurgitate the contents of its social stomach to its fellow colony members, and then to its beloved queen. But looking at colony number 2, there still seemed to be no interest in
Look at that on his shirt. Eat, pray, come, and live forever. Alright.
Emerging into the campanosium, just a worker at the door, waving its antennae out. This was a little disappointing, but I surely didn't want to rush them. Colony number 1 had now sent out its third scout to collect food. It was at this time that I made a very split decision. I don't know why. Perhaps I was just too eager to see how the ants would interact upon meeting. And considering the fact that colony number 2 wasn't ready for an introduction yet, I made the executive decision to proceed to add colony 3 to the mix. Like colony 2, it seemed colony 3 was not yet willing to emerge. The third scout of colony number 1 made its way back to the colony with a full gaster. Man, colony 1 was just doing so well at this. Great work, colony 1. The queen feasted happily. A worker from colony 3 kind of emerged, but seemed a bit shy still. Colony 2 still waving those antennae from inside, and colony 1 sending out their fourth scout now, who crawled across the rocks over to the sweet jelly. Finally, I spotted a worker from colony 3 getting more brave as it wandered outside the hole. Fourth scout of colony 1 was now full and making its way back home. The workers of colony 1 were just killing it. They sent out a fifth scout, which wandered around the campanosium, and at one point I thought it was going to come in contact with one of the other colonies. But nope, it was more interested in eating. As the fifth scout from colony 1 began to head back home, and I saw that there was still no hope for colony 2 nor 3 to emerge, I again made the sudden split executive decision to go ahead and add the fourth colony to the mix. Yes, I was crazy, I know. I just really badly wanted the ants of the different colonies to interact. But of course, these were ants, and they can't always do what we want them to, right? When attached, a worker emerged from the hole cautiously, with other workers behind it. It wandered around a bit, but then re-entered the nest, not willing to risk wandering further.
Damn.
No! That's it! I attached the fifth colony, which of course had no workers yet, and the sixth colony. One of these ant colonies should be ready to come out, but every time I made the attachment, the ants would just kind of peek out and not come outside to forage. I decided to go all the way and attach the final colony, colony 8, to the mix. This is when things took a very scary turn, and when I began to realize that my impatience might have been a huge mistake. While I was busy connecting the other colonies, I hadn't noticed that a scout was finishing off its meal. I had assumed it was colony number 1's sixth scout. That was until it began to head towards the opening of colony 3. Oh? Wait a sec. Was this a worker from colony 3 that finally decided to emerge without me noticing? Yay! Finally, colony 3 was sending out its scouts. Perhaps now 2 workers from different colonies would meet up. But AC family, I was not prepared to see what I saw next. A meetup of ant strangers was exactly what happened.
It wasn't there.
I expected the full scout to come rushing into the test tube like usual. But instead, I saw this. Look whom I found entering our premises, ladies. We've got a trespasser in our midst. A worker had the scout who was encumbered and full of jelly by the antenna. This was not a scout from colony 3. It was the sixth scout of colony 1 that had wandered into the wrong hole. Oh no! I tried not to panic. They weren't spraying formic acid yet, and there was a possibility this was the wrestling ritual prior to the process of ant colonies eventually joining forces. My heart stopped as I watched to see what the ants would do next. A second ant came around to smell the newcomer. She seemed quite interested in her full gaster. Oh, I hoped they weren't going to kill her. A third ant came to inspect the strange ant with a different colony scent that had been dragged in. Again, the full gaster was of great interest. A fourth ant came to smell her out too. The full ant tried to remain calm in the face of this very tense moment and tried to sneak away, but it was no use. this worker was not about to let go so easily. Why leave so soon? The worker sneered at the trespasser. Our queen would like to see you now. Instantly, the scout tried to burst away and make a run for it, but the sudden struggle caused a blob of jelly to come bursting out of its mouth from its full turgid crop. The other ants seized the opportunity and drank from this blob like desperate hyenas, hoping for an easy meal. "Let me go," the ant pleaded. It was then that the giant queen approached to inspect her minions' latest catch. "Now, who do we have here?" the queen inquired as she waved her antennae cautiously to smell. Workers continued to drink from the blobs of jelly, barfed up as a result of the ants' complete fear. It was at this exact moment that I completely regretted this entire experiment. But one thing I did notice was that they still weren't completely killing this ant trespasser. There was no formic acid spray, no tearing of limbs, no panic, just antenna cuffs and inspection. The full ant seemed paralyzed with fear and almost surrendered to her fate at the hands of these foreign ants. But then, suddenly, the ant who had been holding the ant hostage the whole time got hungry. She was envious of the ants that were able to have a taste of the sweet jelly. So she released her mandible grip and attempted to get the hostage to barf up more jelly. "Give me some of that." That was enough for the ant to then spring into action and escape. It leaped up to its feet and ran out the door. It almost went into the hole of Colony 2. But nope, it wasn't going to make the same mistake twice. It quickly cleaned its antennae so it could smell better and headed towards its home scent. It ran back to the correct opening of its true colony, Colony 1, and rushed through the door as fast as it could. OMG guys, you won't believe what just happened to me. Boy, was she glad to be back home and safe. She proceeded to regurgitate the contents of her jelly collection to her beloved colony members. I stayed up to monitor the colonies over the next few hours, but none of the colonies had sent out scouts. Only Colony 1 seemed willing to send out scouts, and there were times they'd come across the other holes but would never decide to enter, nor would there be any signs of aggression from home court. This experiment did not turn out the way I expected. But AC family, now that you've seen exactly what happened, here's where I need your help. The foreign worker ant was dragged into the nest. The ant wasn't killed nor sprayed with formic acid. It was met with semi-aggression, and the ants even tried to feed from it. So my question for you is, what should we do? Should we keep them together and observe what happens, or should we have stuck to the golden rule of ant keeping of not mixing them? And should I separate them now before this escalates and we actually lose ant lives? AC family, please vote under the pinned comment of this video by hitting thumbs up on either the post "Keep them together" or "Separate them now." I've been monitoring them non-stop, but I'm actually unsure what to do here, as the results aren't very conclusive yet. Is this just the equivalent of the typical wrestling that happens prior to colonies joining forces? Or is this truly a sign that these ants will not tolerate outsider ants and will never mix to form a polygynous colony? Let me know in the comment section what you think the best course of action is, and if the majority of you suggest I separate them just to be on the safe side, I'll do that ASAP. If not, I'll keep them together and see how things go, in hopes that we can pursue establishing a polygynous carpenter ant colony. The fate of these carpenter ants lies in your hands. I hope we make the right choice. Together, I believe we will.
Spread that ass.
It's ant love,
baby.
forever.
Alright. I'm doing it.
Last week, I conducted an experiment where I attempted to mix 7 ant colonies together in a single arena. we called the Campanosium. The outcome was pretty intense, but what shocked me most was what happened after last week's video. The outcome was both
That
horrifying
easy.
and a big surprise. Welcome to part 2 of 7 ant colonies in one arena, here on the Ants Canada Ant Channel. Please subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon. Welcome to the AC fam. Enjoy. AC family, let's get right to it. After the craziness of last week's episode, the outcome of our little experiment of mixing 7 ant colonies together in hopes that they were a polygynous species of ant, i.e. an ant species which allows multiple queens per colony and would
That's when
allow
you
for
need queen.
separate colonies to
At least
peacefully band
$1,000
together to form one huge super colony.
Probably
Was
more.
quite shocking and a bit of a nightmare. For me anyway. But do stay tuned until the end for a special surprise reveal, as well as for the vote, where I'll be needing all of your help to make another important decision regarding these ant colonies. Now, before I explain what happened as a result of keeping
Having
the
you
7
keep doing this, everyone is seeing you as an object. I feel really powerful that they see me as an object because that lets me know how stupid they are while they coom and they fap and they obsess and I don't touch them and I take their money. So in them seeing me as an object, I actually feel like a god.
ant colonies
Does that make
together
sense?
in the Campanosium. For those of you who are new and are wondering what on earth is going on here, I raised some ant colonies in test tubes from captured queen ants 74 days ago during their annual mating nuptial flight. When the ant colonies were in ample size and ready to begin foraging outside of their birth test tubes for food, I wondered if these ants of ours, as mentioned, were a quote-unquote...
Like the fact that I make them just kind of lose control of their human, or not really, I guess it's human nature, but like of their, what's the word? Common courtesy, that they make them lose control of all social construct and just divert into horny little fiends makes me feel so powerful. And that is the best time to exploit the wealth of man. When they are in that crazy coomer state of wanting to fap to an object is when they have the most open wallets.
polygynous species, meaning the species would allow for many egg-laying queens to exist amicably in a single colony. And furthermore, if the ant colonies would join forces and act as one super colony, which actually happens in some species. If we could get all 7 ant colonies to band together, I wouldn't have to let any of the ant colonies go, which was what was supposed to
Sent
happen
you a
because
bad
I don't have
message.
any
The only bad messages are ones with no donation attached.
for many separate ant colonies, and it would have been super cool to own a massive super colony of carpenter ants with 7 queens.
Those
in it.
don't get
In
answered.
fact, I've successfully achieved polygynous colony fusion several times on this channel with some well-known polygynous ant species. But our experiment this time was a bit different from our colony fusion experiments of the past. I went into this experiment blindly, without knowing whether or not the ant species I had were indeed polygynous. I only had a hunch that they were, based on what I saw with the wild colony at my place from which our queen ants originally came. Plus, I knew there were many polygynous carpenter ant species in my country, and I highly suspected our ants were one of them. So, in
What
good
do I get if I give you my money? Depends where you give it. OnlyFans, probably get some hanky-panky roleplay, maybe some nudes, maybe some videos. If you give it to me here, you get like a thank you and like an emoji if it's on Cash App. So it really just depends what you want. Mentally doesn't drain you? No. Why would it drain me? The fact that men find me attractive enough to want to yank their schlong to doesn't mentally drain me. It makes me laugh and wealthy and lets me afford more animals.
good scientific fashion, I went ahead and designed an experiment where I would mix the ant colonies into a single
only just
space
inflates my ego.
and see what would happen. The scariest observation came when one ant was held hostage by another ant colony that had
I would say they're the ones
unintentionally
getting
wandered
drained.
into the wrong nest. The ant wasn't killed, but the moment was definitely
Both their penis
tense.
and their wallet.
Thankfully, it eventually escaped, when its capturer let go in attempts to feed from it. But the altercation left me confused. I wasn't sure if this rather tense interaction between the ants of two colonies meant that our ants were polygynous and would eventually peacefully band
From
together.
Prince Williams, what
or
I'm saying, right? No. Are you a girl or a boy? I'm just wondering. And if you're a girl, are you an attractive girl that guys find, like guys are always cooming over? Because, like, as someone who's always been hit on since I was, like, 12 years old, I'm kind of used to it. I've just learned to monetize it as an adult. I've just learned that if you're attractive, guys will say stupid shit, say horny shit, want to do horny shit. And most girls don't make money off of it, but still get objectified, as you say. So no, it's not draining at all.
if they were hostile and would eventually kill each other. So I ran a poll in the comment section, and to my surprise, out of nearly 30,000 votes, only 2,800 of you voted to err on the side of caution and separate the colonies before any precious ant lives were lost. Carlos Rodriguez wrote, "I know you've done this before with the Golden Empire and succeeded with it, but after what happened just now, I really wouldn't risk any more ant lives and just split the test tubes apart again from the bin." But Carlos was part of the tiny minority who felt this way. The rest of a whopping 27,000 of you voted to keep them all in the Campanosium and continue with the ant colony mixing experiment.
You got some sick
Tyler
fuckers in your
Potts wrote,
comments, Mr.
"That
Ant-Man."
interaction didn't seem hostile. Being outnumbered 4-1 plus the queen and surviving says something. Trondo Jensen said, "This channel is all about ant education. Keep them together is the only way to learn more about their behavior. If you are okay with it not having the best outcome, that is." Some of you had some interesting theories and predictions. Marvel said, since all the ant colonies are too weak, they would not bother risking taking over other colonies, thus showing no serious aggression. This is the best time to keep the existing setting, so they have time to form an alliance instead of war. But AC family, for those of you who shared Marvel's hopeful outlook on the experiment, I'm afraid I have some shocking news. Due to popular vote, I allowed the ant colonies to remain in the Campanosium overnight. And AC family, check out what I saw in the test tubes the next morning. Ant Colony 1. All the workers were full of food, but my heart dropped when I saw this. The head and thorax of an ant that had been mercilessly torn in half. Colony 1 had committed ant murder overnight. I was so saddened by this. I felt so bad for conducting this experiment. It seemed these ants, or at least this colony, was not willing to form an alliance with other ant colonies. I wondered which colony this murdered ant belonged to. I looked into the other test tubes and was devastated once more when I saw this. Another murdered ant in Colony 4. Its carcass lay lifeless in the colony's garbage dump. Which ant colony did this ant belong to? I looked around further. Another dead ant carcass, spotted in Colony 6. No! Whose colony did this dead worker belong to? I eventually found my answer. I nearly cried when I checked up on Colony 8. Each member stood still as I scanned the test tube. It seems overnight, Colony 8 had lost workers, and to my utter shock, all its brood. This means that one or more of the ant colonies had raided this ant nest, kidnapped all the babies, and murdered the colony's workers. The guilt I felt from seeing all of this was unbearable. I decided to separate all 7 ant colonies and not pursue with the mixing. I think I had enough evidence to determine that these ant colonies of ours were not peaceful to each other and would not blend together. This species of carpenter ants of ours were indeed monogamous and not polygynous.
No.
Thankfully, a few days after this mixing, I checked up on Colony 8 and was pleased to see that the queen had already begun to lay eggs to rebuild the initial army she had lost. I knew Colony 8 would soon bounce back. I would be feeding this ant colony extra food as my way of saying sorry and making things right. Now, AC family, at the start of this video, I mentioned that there would be a surprise reveal as well as an important
I got
vote.
$60.
I'll start first with the surprise reveal. Remember Queen 5? How she was behind on raising worker ants? And we suspected that perhaps she hadn't mated during her nuptial flight, and were waiting to see if her first adult ant would be a male ant. Because if it did turn out to be male, it indeed meant she hadn't mated.
Oh, I can't change the emoji. I forgot to put the eggplant.
Well,
I put a
the first
praise
cocoon
sign.
finally
Oh well.
hatched this week. And this is the official
okay.
gender reveal. It was male. We were right. And sadly, it means all these babies are male ants. And that she hadn't successfully mated during her nuptial flight 74 days ago. If you're new to ants and don't understand how an unmated queen can go on to even give birth at all, it's strange, I know, but in ant genetics, unmated queen ants can actually go on to lay eggs, but they can only become male ants. Queens need the sperm of a male ant during her nuptial flight to produce females, i.e. worker ants. And so this queen here is pretty much doomed to die because male ants don't do any work and won't be able to take care of her. How sad. I think I'll hold on to her for a bit longer and see if maybe worker ants hatch from any of these other cocoons. But if not, I may bury her test tube to allow her to die naturally in the wild. Unless you guys have some other suggestions. Like Trono Jensen mentioned in his comment, sometimes the result of an experiment might not have the outcome we want, and I was certainly reminded of this fact this week. I'm glad I separated the ant colonies while they were each still stable. I fear if I kept them together any longer, there would definitely have been much more bloodshed. I appreciate all of you who participated in the vote last week, but for those of you who are hoping to see a full-out ant war, I hate to disappoint you, but I'm afraid I just can't allow myself to do it. I do have footage of a wild ant war of fire ants here, if you would like to see what an epic ant war is like. But now for another important vote, guys. Now I feel at least one of our ant colonies might be ready for a home upgrade. Several of our ant colonies have many workers now, and I think it's time to attach one of these birth test tubes to something a bit more homey. But my question for you guys is, which colony should receive their new luxury ant farm mansion, this AC ant tower? Please vote in the pinned comments below. And as usual, AC family, your wish will be my command. For ant keepers, this is where the fun truly begins. From catching the queen ants freshly mated from their nuptial flights, to placing them in test tube setups to allow them to raise their first set of workers, known as nanitics, to finally reaching the point when the workers are just eager to break free from their test tubes in the hopes of exploring the exciting world beyond. This, ladies and gentlemen, is where we as their keepers get to provide the ants their very first legit ant farm. Now last year, millions of you followed that exact journey of my fire ant queen, named the Ember Empress, who gave rise to a budding fire ant colony who eventually moved into their first ant farm that expanded and expanded and expanded until the massive fire ant kingdom that grew ultimately relocated to their permanent home pelletarium
God,
of
someone's
majestic
barking.
floating mountains we called the Ember Islands. But this year, the ants we've been watching grow
Right.
are these huge carpenter ants. And today the ants finally reach a great milestone in their lives where we give them a home I think would be perfect for the carpenter ants as their first
In the
ant
bathroom.
farm, this luxury ant tower of wood. Will our ants like their new home? Only one way to find out. Welcome to the Ants Canada Ant Channel. Please subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon. Welcome to the AC family. Enjoy. Guys, meet Colony 1. This is the lucky carpenter ant colony we will all watch receive their brand new luxury home. In the darkness of her royal chamber of wood, the Queen Carpenter Ant rests upside down, while her minions clean themselves and keep watch. The ants were still new to this strange yet cozy grand wooden palace, unlike anything the colony had ever lived in before. They were vigilant and resting now, for they had much work ahead of them. Getting to this point was an incredible journey, and I'm excited to share with you all today the story of one of the coolest ant farms I've ever built for some of the coolest ants I've ever owned. Welcome to the Ants Canada Ant Channel. Please subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon. Welcome to the AC family. Enjoy. It's been an amazing 3 months, AC family. From the moment we caught the pregnant carpenter ant queens during their mating nuptial flight, placed them in test tube setups, watched them raise their first generation of workers, and finally moved 2 lucky carpenter ant colonies from the bunch into their first wooden ant farms 2 weeks ago. Finally coming to the amazing thing I can't wait to show you today. Now, I didn't upload last week, but a lot has happened since our last video. So, I have lots of things to share with you guys, including some shocking information I learned from my ant biologist friend, Dr. General, when I asked him to have a look at the carpenter ants we've been raising, in attempts to finally identify their exact species. Without spoiling the surprise, guys, remember how we suspected this carpenter ant colony, colony number 7, was a different species from the others we were raising? Well, have I got a mind-blowing plot twist for you? I'll also be revealing the official names of our 2 carpenter ant colonies in their ant farms that your AC Senate and I have chosen based on all your name suggestions you guys gave in my last video. So stay tuned for all that coming up. So let's get to it. First things first, 2 weeks ago, I moved 2 chosen carpenter ant colonies whom up to today, we've been calling colony number 1 and colony number 7 into their luxury modified AC ant towers from antscanada.com. In the area where we ant keepers would normally add soil or sand for the ants to dig, I decided to outfit the ant towers with a cylinder of wood for our carpenter ants to dig and tunnel into. Now, as we all know, carpenter ants are notorious for nesting in wooden structures, often in domestic spaces like the cottage I'm currently living in, where carpenter ants seem super rampant. And it was a personal dream of mine to finally own an ant farm with carpenter ants, where the ants had the ability to dig tunnels into the wood. Formerly, I had kept carpenter ants in ant farms with pre-made tunnels, which is fun, but the idea of allowing the ants to tunnel through wood themselves, as they would in the wild, was just super exciting to me. I wanted to replicate this natural nesting environment for our carpenter ants.
Puppies really like those sausages, chat. Huh? this one over here. Gotta order more of those sausage treats.
So, I created a small starting burrow to give the ants a good head start. That is where we last left off, guys. But AC family, what happened after the ants were given their wooden ant towers certainly wasn't what I expected at all. For nearly a week, I watched as the ants sort of scoped out the starting burrows, but there was just no interest in digging into the wood. I was really hoping the colony would start burrowing, but then several of you had some very insightful comments in my last video. Sergio Martinez wrote, "As an exterminator, ants always start colonies in moistened, damaged, soft wood, then start expanding into sound wood." Dwarf Gorami wrote, "Ants almost never carve their nest into fresh wood. It's really hard and it takes long. I suggest trying rotten or at least a very soft type of wood. They like that. If you put wood in water for a long time, it will be soft." Even the president of North Korea, Kim Jong-un, an avid AC family member, wrote, "These types of ants require soft, rotting wood to burrow and dig. They won't be able to dig in that." When I read this, I thought to myself, of course, duh. If I left the wooden ant farms as they were, the ants would probably never move into the wood. I needed to help them out, and I had the perfect idea. Here's what I did. I removed the wooden cylinder from one of the ant towers. Surprisingly, moisture from the air was already starting to rot the wood. I could see dark mold spots already starting to attack the wood. But I needed to make this block of wood suitable for the carpenter ants to move in. So I went straight to work. With a power drill, I drilled out holes and tunnels into the wood, trying my best to imagine how our carpenter ants might like to design their home had they been the architects. I worked for a good hour and a half to make sure what I was creating for our ants would be perfect. Funny enough, drilling into the wood like this was giving me flashbacks of when I first started my ant shop, antscanada.com, in my parents'
Chat, I have a question. Was it... Do you remember if it was Petco that I bought these at? With the pup? I think it was when I went strolling with the puppies. Was it the Petco? Does anybody remember? I know I've been to a few different places with them. It was PetSmart, was it? 'Cause we went to Petco before PetSmart. We saw cats. Snake. No, I didn't buy them in Austin. And that was a Petco. I don't think I bought them in Austin. I think I had the puppy. I thought I had the puppies with me. Unless I'm tripping. But that was a Petco either way. Let me see if there's a location in stock thing online. Alright, carry on.
basement in Canada 12 years ago. I had drilled and fashioned thousands of ant farms like this. Back then, it was into pumice stone. which I sold online to ant keepers around the world who were just as passionate about ants as me. As I drilled and created a flurry of a mess, I was taken back to those pioneering days of antscanada.com and realized that in just 12 years, my dream of promoting the ant keeping hobby had truly come true, beyond anything I could have ever imagined. Nostalgic, emo, and grateful, that's how I felt drilling into this wood for our ants. I proceeded to wash the wood of its remaining little bits, just like old times, when I used to make the AC ant farms by hand. AC family, behold, the wooden cylinder with new chambers and tunnels. It kind of looks like a face. It's a small network of tunnels and chambers.
Oh, they have free same-day delivery or they have pickup. Let me check.
And I'll show you around in just a moment. I decided not to sand the edges to keep them rough, to hopefully encourage the ants to smoothen things out and pull at the little fibers. But let's start with the entrance. Here's where the ants will be able to enter the nest. It's big enough to fit the queen, but small enough to make the ants feel protected. Here's what I call the atrium, where the ants can choose to go either left or right. To the right, we have a sizable chamber here. Not sure if the queen would like this spot, but my guess is they'd be placing brood or stored food here if ever. To the left, a major corridor, which leads to the other areas of the nest. The ants could then proceed to the mid-level portion of the nest, another large communal chamber here. And at the extreme left, this tighter dead-end area. Now I created this dead-end area because my hopes were that the ants would continue this tunnel whenever they were ready to expand the nest. In theory, and in my mind, it was an ideal place for the ants to continue burrowing, but only time would tell. Moving on to the lower chambers of the nest now, we have this large chamber here for the ants. And though to us it looks like a dead end, it's actually not. It leads to this chamber here, a spacious chamber that I also feel will be the most humid part of the nest. The secret is it's connected by a tunnel at the back, but from the front we can't see the connection. It's just a cool design feature I used to incorporate into the old AC pumice nests that I called shadow tunnels. And that was it. This was the wooden palace I hoped our carpenter ants would like. I wasn't sure if they would, but we would soon find out. I placed the entire wooden cylinder into a container of water and allowed the wood to soak overnight. Now I had only created one modified wood nest for now, because I wanted to see if the idea would work. No pun intended. Get it? Woodwork? But I randomly chose Colony 7 to receive the new wood nest for now. I placed the now moistened wood into the AC ant tower. I made sure to place the nest entrance hole I made right at the port, where I'd be reconnecting the ant colony, in order to increase the chances of the ants discovering the hole leading to the chambers. Let's hope one ant will be curious enough to wander in and discover the darkened nest below. The red film, by the way, fools the ants into thinking they are in the dark, because it is said that ants cannot see red light, so we'll be able to see them, but to the ants, it will be dark, just the way they like it. Alright, AC family, let's do this! It was time to introduce this new wooden palace to our carpenter ants. I placed the lid back onto the ant tower, then reconnected carpenter ant colony 7 to the port. Connected. Let's watch. At first the ants seemed shy and wary. What is this? It smells different. Another ant came by and decided to climb up and onto the wood. And oh, it looks like an ant is about to explore our hole. Nope, not yet, but close. Now it was just a waiting game. I wondered how long it would take for the ants to discover the secret lair we made them, deep in the wood. At one point my heart stopped when I spotted an ant crawl into the atrium. Yes! But it crawled out not too shortly after, and carried on with its day as if it had found nothing exciting. Aw, man. Back at the nest, the colony seemed pretty active, as the workers were busy rearranging the brood. It didn't look like moving out was on this colony's mind just yet. It was okay though. I was willing to wait, and I wasn't going to force the ants to move. I would just have to work with and accept the ants' moving schedule and preferences. I needed to accept the possibility that the ants might not find our wooden ant farm a desirable nest to live in. Obviously, I hoped this wasn't the case. For a whole day, I watched Colony 7 moving around in their test tube, not interested in our wooden nest. I didn't know what I was going to do if the ants didn't end up liking this wood nest that I spent a long time creating for them. Should I just try to house them in another ant farm setup? Perhaps with pre-made tunnels like I've always done for carpenter ants in the past? I was a bit concerned because the cotton blocking the colony's water reservoir in their test tube was already beginning to show signs of mold, so I knew I needed to come up with alternate housing plans soon if they ended up not moving into this wooden ant tower. But then, AC family, just as I was starting to doubt our wooden ant farm idea, I began to notice ants were wandering and hanging out at the test tube adapter joint, attaching the test tube to the port. But what caught me by surprise was an ant carrying brood into this area. Whoa! Wait, what? Were the ants relocating the brood from the test tube? OMG, yes! The ants were moving the brood out of the test tube. This was a good sign because it meant that the ants were possibly finding this spot to be a better nest area for the babies, just a skip and a hop away from our wooden nest in the ant tower. How exciting! I felt the ants were probably turned off by the bright lights I was using for filming, and thus began moving the babies into the shadows. Using light is a common way ant keepers get ants to relocate a colony. Don't worry though, this light emits no heat, so the ants weren't moving due to being cooked by light, which can be dangerous. I continued to keep the light in place to encourage the ants to move closer and closer to our wooden nest. It was at this time that I could also truly appreciate how much brood Colony 7 had now. Check out that naked pupa, which we already mentioned in a previous video, makes this carpenter ant colony unique because carpenter ants typically have cocooned pupae, as seen in our other carpenter ant colonies. Before long, the royal queen herself had relocated with the rest of the workers. I wasn't sure what to make of this. Though the colony was relocating out of their test tube and into the test tube adapter area, they still weren't showing signs of wanting to explore the inside of the wooden nest. A guard stood at the entrance to make sure the queen and the colony were protected, but none were seen entering the hole. Would the queen and the whole colony just live in this section from now on? I wasn't quite sure what to do exactly. But AC family, you guys won't believe the thing that happened next. So eventually I had to leave the colony and use the restroom, and I was literally gone for 5 minutes and came back to this. The ants were no longer in the test tube adapter. Had they moved back into the test tube? No. I looked at the AC ant tower and held my breath. OMG, the colony had moved in. Seeing the queen and the brood inside was the best sight ever. I couldn't believe I was only gone for 5 minutes and they had moved in that time period. That was some fast transport. Seeing the colony inside our wood nest was truly a dream come true. But I didn't want to remove the red film to look at them closer. Until the ants had more time to settle in, I wanted the ants to fall in love with the space and feel safe there. So I decided to leave the colony alone for 24 hours to enjoy their brand new home. What a dream come true. In 24 hours, I disconnected the test tube and placed an AC plug into the port. It was so weird to see the test tube setup completely evacuated. This test tube had been the home to the ant colony for their entire existence, and it was now an empty glass shell. It had served its purpose well, but it was the start of a new age now for this ant colony, where they no longer needed to live in the glass and cotton home of their provenance, but in the very element that nature had designed them to live: wood. I removed the red film. Check them out! Boy, is it moist in there! It was awesome to see the ants living in the wood. Check out the dead end. Guess they decided it would be the best place to stock brood piles. The workers were busy performing various activities inside the wood nest. As for the queen, she really liked this area. The workers have placed some of the brood in this chamber and have yet to utilize the end chamber connected via the shadow tunnel. Seeing all this was truly amazing, and again, such a dream come true, because I've always wanted to raise carpenter ants in a wooden nest like this. Seeing how moist and hydrated the whole nest was made me realize how awesome of a material wood is for ants to adapt as a nest material. I'll probably not have to water this nest for a few weeks until it dries out. I also noticed how ingenious the wood was for nesting, as it offered a dry area towards the top and a moist area towards the bottom, allowing the ants to hydro-regulate and choose what and who goes where in the nest, according to moisture conditions. Let's hope that one day they'll continue to burrow and expand this nest as the colony grows larger. Now AC family, at the start of this video, I promised two things. First off, species ID. So as mentioned, I was finally able to ask my ant biologist friend, Dr. General, to have a look at our videos and help with a species ID. And what he had to reveal was truly shocking. First, he said that we won't be able to determine the exact species of our carpenter ants until the first majors arrive. Majors are the extra large worker ants with huge heads that specialize in defense and cutting things open. Right now, the colony is composed of nanitics, so it will be some time before majors start appearing. But one mind-blowing thing he revealed to me was about Colony 7. AC family, listen to this. So remember how Colony 7 always produced naked pupae, and we could never figure out why? Well, turns out Colony 7 is not from the well-known carpenter ant genus Camponotus. In 2016, ant biologists determined through DNA evidence that a certain collection of carpenter ants were in fact biologically different enough from Camponotus carpenter ants to be lumped together in their own genus, known today as Colobopsis. Colony 7 is a Colobopsis species, not a Camponotus species. And one such difference between Colobopsis and Camponotus is that Colobopsis ants produce naked pupae. So that's why. What's amazing is Colobopsis and Camponotus ants have both evolved to live in wood and kind of grew similar in appearance due to convergent evolution, meaning they evolved the same general body shape, parts, and behavior, simply due to living in the same environments. This is why Colony 7 looks so much like the other carpenter ants, but technically is a completely different genus. What's even cooler is that some Colobopsis species have workers with these crazy truncated heads that are used like doors to block the entrances to their nests. Insane! Not sure if Colony 7 will develop workers with such heads, but only time will tell. I also learned that since Colobopsis ants pretty much share the same lifestyle as Camponotus ants, they too are given the common name carpenter ants, but are just a different and new genus of carpenter ants, scientifically speaking. Now AC family, isn't that all just super cool? Now as for the official name, your AC Senate and I looked through all your awesome suggestions, and we all agreed that Colony 7 should from now on be called the Redwood Warriors. So many of you suggested this name, or variations of it. So it's official. This Colobopsis carpenter ant colony will be called the Redwood Warriors. Here is their official flag. As for Colony 1, our Camponotus carpenter ants, your AC Senate and I looked through your name suggestions and decided that they will forever be named the Ebony Army, and this is their flag. They will be moving into their wooden ant tower shortly, now that I know the Redwood Warriors really like living in theirs. Overall, AC family, this has been an extremely rewarding journey of ant discovery with you all, and the fun has only just begun. My dream when I first started this ant channel was to show anyone who would stop to watch and listen just how amazing these miraculous creatures, who most of the world sees as pests that need to be exterminated, actually are if you just take the time to look closely. I'll have you know that dream of mine comes true every week when I see how many of you are invested in the lives of the ants we care for together on the channel. Thank you all for joining me and for subscribing to the channel, AC family. I cannot thank you enough. The entire experience taught me that all great things in life start small, take time, and with some patience and love, grow into something unexpectedly rewarding beyond our wildest of dreams. Thank you all for watching and supporting the ants. Until next week, AC family, it's Ant Love forever. An insect beast is about to be devoured by carpenter ants. The beast lies within this test tube. What is this beast, you ask? It looks like a cricket, some of you may be saying. Indeed, you are right if you drew that conclusion. But if you look closely, you'll notice it's not your ordinary cricket. See its face? And those highly developed bear-like claws? This beast of an insect, ladies and gentlemen, is known as a mole cricket. This particular beast from the genus Grillotalpa. I've actually been raising it over the past few days, feeding it brown rice and plant roots, getting it ready for its final destination. I've learned that it's quite a stunning creature, perfectly adapted to life underground, where it spends most of its life. It's currently their breeding season, and I caught it as it was flying around looking for a mate. Now in a community tab post, I asked you guys which of the 3 insects you guys wanted to be fed to our pet carpenter ants that we've been raising on the channel. A cockroach, a normal cricket, or a mystery beast insect. And the results were very clear. Over 80% of you voted that the mystery beast insect be the new prey of our carpenter ants, who have never before known the taste of raw flesh of another insect. It would be the very first time our ants would be tasting meat. And guys, the time has come to give our ants the protein they've been craving for. Warning, what you're about to see next is not for the faint at heart. Welcome to the Ants Canada Ant Channel. Subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon. Welcome to the AC
puppy buggies.
Enjoy.
Out.
Thank you, Mole Cricket, for giving up your life to nourish my ants. This is the mini prayer I say in my head before dispatching any and all prey insects I feed to my ants. I also don't like to show the first killing blow. Not sure why, but I find it to be the most brutal. But now I'm cutting it up like a butcher would some beef or chicken. If some of you are disappointed that I didn't just throw in the entire beast insect into the ant enclosures, well, I couldn't do that for 3 reasons. First, this massive cricket was way too much meat for just one of our young colonies. The carpenter ant colonies we're raising are still too small and would not be able to tackle a beast insect like this alive. The cricket would surely win, and we'd lose many worker ants, which at this early stage of the colony's development would be lethal. Second, this huge beast insect was enough to feed all 8 of our ant colonies, as you will see in this video. And third, I just find it less cruel to kill the prey insects first, instead of it having to die a long, painful, and drawn-out death, again, with several ants also dying from the process. This beast cricket would have surely mangled many ants. If the prey was a tiny fruit fly or something that would have died quickly after being seized by the ants, I would probably consider feeding live. Whatever the case, today you guys will be witnessing the super cool reaction of our pet carpenter ants to their first taste of meat from a prey insect. Up until today, they've only known the sweet jelly blobs I've been giving them since they first began eating solids. And I know you guys will just love their reaction to their first prey insect meat. A lot of you have also been asking for an update on the other carpenter ant colonies we've been raising that I haven't been showing much lately. So do stay tuned for all that coming up. Alright, first up to eat, the Redwood Warriors.
Do you want to freeze more semen?
Behold,
Like, what?
our
Hold
red
on.
team
That
of
doesn't make
carpenter
fucking
ants that
sense
we've
to me.
named the Redwood Warriors, living in their...
They're saying that his last semen collection, there's like 10, you know, what's it called? Like, inseminations, maybe. I would get that. Like, it can be divided in like 10 straws or whatever. 10 puppies. Like, how would you calculate that? That doesn't make sense. I don't know. I feel like that's not described correctly. I don't get that. Hold on, I gotta poop again.
AC ant tower of wood. The
Like
ants
last
are
winter gas,
feisty in
now I
there.
actually have to poop.
They're hungry. And it's feeding day. But little do they know, they're not getting the usual sweet jelly carb they're used to. They're about to receive some fresh beast cricket steak. Our pet carpenter ants. I'd say today was a success, and they truly enjoyed their first taste of prey meat. Did you enjoy watching them enjoy their food? What other things
Feel
would you like
better.
to see them try?
Feel lighter.
Let me know in the
Feel more
comments.
weight.
After all, variety is the spice of life. Just a reminder though, I come from an area where I know they don't spray pesticides. So it was safe for me to feed our ants this cricket despite it being wild caught. It's much safer to
baby
feed
birdie
ants
is so
prey
wired
insects that
and
have been raised by
fuzzy.
you or farm raised for the pet hobby,
so
like crickets, feeder roaches, mealworms, superworms, etc. I'd say it's better safe than sorry. Anyway, happy belated Thanksgiving to all our American AC family, and to all the fellow ant keepers watching. May your ants feast to their little ant heart's desire. Until next week, AC family, thank you all so much for watching and supporting the ants. It's Ant Love forever.
You're small and cute.
Something reeks of death along the forest floor. It's the body of a dying cricket. Its skull had been crushed in, and its abdomen slashed to expose its fresh guts within.
Ew.
Suddenly, the cricket bursts in a quick flailing of its limbs. Though the cricket had been executed several minutes ago, it is still capable of movement, because insect brains are made up of nerve clusters called ganglia, which are located along the center of the cricket's body. As you'll see later, even if its head were to be cut off, it would still be able to move. But though this gory sight may appear gruesome at the onset, this insect has become a sacrifice for a greater cause, and that cause is about to come swarming at any moment. And you all are about to become witnesses to this great natural event, the Great Ant Feeding. Welcome to the Ants Canada Ant Channel. Please subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon. Welcome to the AC family. Enjoy. AC family, behold, our carpenter ant colony known as the Redwood Warriors, living in an AC ant tower ant farm, outfitted with wood. These lucky ants were the chosen colony based on a collective vote by you guys in a community tadpole that will be fed for the very first time in a new and exciting way that is truly natural to them. You see, usually the colony receives their food placed directly into the ant farm, but today, these ants will receive a brand new hunting ground. A large living space we ant keepers call an outworld, which to the ants simulate the outside world, where the ants could explore and hunt for food. You guys will love their reaction to their new outworld, as well as the ultimate feeding event in their outworld. So do keep on watching until the end. Alright, so let's get to it. AC family, it's time we create a brand new and magical world for our ants. A naturalistic living space they'll love. An outworld that will blow their little ant minds. AC family, behold the transparent universe that will become the Redwood Warriors' new outworld. It is called an AC Outworld from AntsCanada.com. It's a luxurious piece of ant housing tech. Let me show you around. I love housing ant colonies in these AC Outworlds for several reasons. For one, it's got great side and top ventilation for the ants and organisms that will be living inside it. It's got a pretty neat cover, perfect for ant keeping, with a ventilated lid, a feeding chute for easy feeding, and an outer lid for placing an ant barrier like Vaseline or baby powder to keep the ants from crawling out when opening the outworld. The outworlds have a lot of vertical space, which is great for ants that love to explore varying altitudes. And they even have a removable bottom floor in case you want to stack the outworlds on top of each other to create a super high living space for the ants. There are 2 entrance ports at the back, here and here. Alright, AC family, and now it's time to do what we do best. Let's give this outworld some life, shall we? First, I poured a layer of gravel along the bottom. This will act as a drainage layer so the soils don't become too waterlogged. I used to skip this step when building terrariums, but I would always regret it because watering always became a problem without it. And after an hour of work, this is what the new outworld looked like. AC family, behold the mystical forest of Crimsonia, the new hunting grounds of our Redwood Warriors. Isn't it pretty? Come,
It's actually pretty nice.
let me show
for an
you
ant.
around.
A fucking ant
Crimsonia
tank.
is a lush
It's
world of
lush.
plants, stones, mosses, soils, vines, and branches.
That's just my face, Happy Hob. I'm interested in it. I'm just busy.
One of my
I have
favorite
like a billion
features
platforms,
is this lush
like
moss
20
carpet.
of
It gives the
employees I
territories
have
a
to
true
manage, both
foresty
like
feel.
here and remotely. And then I have
Rocky
like
outcrops
30
give the
pets.
lands the feel of rough terrain,
I'm just busy.
and the lush ferns growing along the back create an awesome forest environment that I feel will make the carpenter ants feel right at home. The most prominent feature of these hunting grounds, though, is the white gravel path. It's here where I hope to place the ants' food, right where we can see them. I love adding paths like this in my outworlds
Just pay
because
me. I
it
can
gives the
check that shit
habitat
right out.
a
You know how many
sense
people
of
have said
dimension
that
and depth,
who have
and I
tried,
think it
and then
looks
they
super
don't
darn
do
cool.
a good job?
Wouldn't you say?
All of them.
Here's what the entrance ports into the outworld look like.
More work
here
than you think it is.
and here. Alrighty, C family, I couldn't wait to watch our ants react to their new outworld. Do you think they'll like it? Well, there's only one way to find out. It's time to place in the food to begin the feeding process. In goes a wounded cricket. As mentioned in past videos, I prefer to semi-kill prey insects because I find it's less cruel. And since the ant colony is still young, with few members, it will be easier for the ants. Perhaps once the colony is much larger, and the ants have the ability to kill the prey swiftly, I may consider offering prey insects somewhat more alive.
Hope clones
All
are
right,
enjoying the summer.
and now
No,
to
they
plug
hate- they
one
hate
of the entrance ports with an AC plug. We can plug another living unit to this spot in the future. And in the other entrance port, a tube, where the ants will be able to enter the outworld.
I
And
hate
now,
summer.
all
No one
set.
who lives in
Send
Texas
the
likes
Redwood
summer.
Warriors.
It's awful.
Let's
Okay.
open up the nest and have a peek. There they were, shining a light into the queen's chamber. And wow, look at all that brood. They were surely hungry, as it had been a week since they last ate. There were 2 ants above ground, assumingly looking or waiting for me to feed them their next meal. Little did these ants know, they were about to discover a whole new world of wonder along with their next meal. Are you guys ready? Let's do this. I removed the AC plug from one of the exit ports and connected the tube. And done. The ants were now officially connected to Crimsonia. Let's watch. It didn't take long for an ant to get a whiff of Crimsonia in the distance, coming from the exit port. That's funny. There never used to be a walkway here. The ant cautiously wandered into the tube. off it went. This ant was surely brave. Imagine these territories were unexplored and everything, including the very material of the tube, was completely foreign and new to it. Regardless, the ant pressed on, following the scent
They haven't
of
asked
something
me, Jim.
alluring.
It's kind of far out.
at
They
the
usually
end
don't
of the
ask
tube.
until like the week, like the month before, or less.
I watched and waited patiently to film the ant's titanic entry into the uncharted lands of Crimsonia. But to my surprise, it didn't come through. What? I checked the tube and spotted the ant running back home. Oh? I guess it wanted to inform the others before proceeding further, or call for backup? Looking at the colony, it was at this time that I noticed one of the rooms below had some funny growths. Mold. Looks like this is where they were storing their garbage or leaving their droppings. Usually this mold isn't too much of a danger for the ants because in nature little creatures like mites and springtails would eat up this mold. But in this sterile ant farm, there was no such cleanup crew for the ants, which made the need for this outworld even more imperative at this time, because the soils surely contained little mites and springtails which would multiply in the outworld and eventually find their way into this ant tower to eat up all this mold. I couldn't wait for that biological balance to establish over time. Another ant came right up to the end of the tube, but turned around. What gives? I watched a third ant come to the end of the tube and also turn around. These ants were shy, perhaps. Later, I watched two ants approach the end of the tube. Perhaps they would be braver as a duo? They entered the port. Yes! They cautiously smelled around, and... still no entry. One final ant wandered to the end of the tube. Entered the port. And I held my breath as I watched the ant cautiously enter Crimsonia. Yes! The ant explored the vast, strange new world. New smells it had never before smelled. A wide space it never before knew was possible. Everything was magical and amazing to this ant. It stepped onto one of the branches. It was so high up here. For the next few moments, I watched the ant explore the immediate area, then make its way down. At this point, I could tell the ant had explored enough for now and needed to report these new territories back to the colony. But for anyone who wondered if ants ever get lost, just watch this ant desperately trying to remember where the entrance to these lands was. It circled around and around, trying to find the opening it had previously come through. If an ant didn't lay down enough pheromone trail on the way in, it may have a hard time backtracking its steps. Finally, found it. The ant made its way back home and reported the news of new lands to the colony. But looking at the general reaction of the Redwood Warriors, the colony seemed lukewarm about the idea. Perhaps they needed more testimonies to get excited about it. One ant decided to check out if the rumors were true. It cautiously stepped through the tube and made its way into Crimsonia. Bewildered and amazed, it too began to explore the territories. The ants seemed to be really preoccupied with exploring the upper portions of the outworld, but all I wanted was for the ants to stumble across our cricket carcass so they could dine. There were times when the ant was at ground level, and I had thought it had picked up the scent of our cricket. But it ended up turning away. Did they not smell their meal laying there? Another ant entered the outworld. The ants explored the outskirts, and then finally, I spotted an ant approaching our cricket offering. Yes! Come on! Go for it! Go for it! Oh wait! No! Wrong way! There were several points when the ants came so close, but ended up passing our cricket by. My guess was the ants didn't have food on their mind at the moment, and were more focused on exploring these strange new lands we gave them. More ants were entering Crimsonia now, and more ants at home were beginning to show interest in the rumors of strange new lands beyond. After watching the ants for several hours, and still no interest in feeding, I decided to go to bed and check up on the ants in the morning. Little did I know, it was in the morning that I would truly get to witness the ant action I was hoping for. As soon as I woke, I checked up on the ants and Crimsonia. The cricket was still there, but had been moved from its original spot. Its head had also been removed. Checking the tube, I see that the ants had attempted to carry a leg back to the nest, but decided to leave it there for some odd reason. Strange. I peeked into the nest. Nice. Looks like the brood had their fill of cricket meat. See the darker areas? The colony looked overall simply content. I was sad that I had missed all that feeding action for the first night in Crimsonia, but that was until I decided to offer some sweet jelly. An ant found the jelly instantly. I suppose the ants had completed their exploration of the lands and were now much more open to feeding. The ant filled up its social stomach, then made its long trek back to the nest, leaving a pheromonal trail on the way back home through the tube, and back to the nest where it informed the others of the sweet jelly. Soon 2 ants were feeding, and they too headed back to the nest to confirm there was some delicious sweet jelly in the strange new world outside. Soon there were 3 ants, and I was surprised to see an ant feeding from our cricket. Eventually, Crimsonia became the site of a feeding fest for the Redwood Warriors. As I watched the ants eating to their heart's desire, my heart was full. I guess it took some sweet jelly to really get the ants excited about their new hunting grounds, which, after thinking about it, made so much sense, because last week we fed them a lot of protein. It was the carb they were looking for most now. Man, look at the ants feasting on that head! Later I peeked into the nest and was super happy to see our ants just full of food, and the babies also quite full. And looks like they went back to finally bring that cricket leg into the nest to chew on. It must taste like delicious crab legs. What do you guys think? As I watched the colony going about their natural behaviors as they would in the wild, I felt glad that I had brought them yet another step closer to a naturalistic way of life. I knew it wouldn't be long before this colony would explode in population. And now, they had a huge outworld in which to go grocery shopping. The outworld will also provide the ants a new place to dump their garbage, where soil creatures would go on to further break it down, to thereby provide nourishment for the plant life in Crimsonia. We had created a magnificent little biological system, which would only grow in splendor over time. By the way, guys, real quick, if any of you have wanted to get into the ant keeping hobby with me, and you're interested in a great beginner ant farm, these AC Ant Tower Smalls are now at 20% off at antscanada.com until January the 1st, as well as our AC Hybrid Nest Minis. And on top of that, if you use the promo code AntLoveForever21, you get our Ultimate Ant Keeping Handbook ebook, complete with care guides on specific commonly kept ant species, totally free, which you can add to your cart before checking out. They make an awesome holiday gift for anyone who loves ants. We ship worldwide and offer full email support if you need our help. Plus, if you didn't catch a queen ant this season and need ants, just visit the Queen Ants for Sale tab to look for ant colony sellers in your area. Just a reminder, if you're outside the US, it's too late for pre-Christmas delivery, but if you're in the US, You still have until December 17th
Angelica
to
wants
order
to
to
design an
receive your
aviary.
package before Christmas on December
Like on the
25th.
3D model.
Regardless, this
Just
promo
going back and
continues
forth
until
with, like,
January the
kind of
1st,
ideas on that.
2021. So, order now, because we have a limited supply before they run out for the year. I'd love for you guys to keep ants with me. It's super easy and fun. And so concludes another epic day in the age of the carpenter ants on this channel. Until the next epic ant story, thank you all for watching and supporting the ants. It's ant love forever. It was supposed to be another typical day at the ant colony when I decided to peek in and check up on my carpenter ants, named the Redwood Warriors, in their ant farm. I removed the red film, which fools the ants to think they're in the dark, seeing as ants can't see red light. But this is what the ant nest looked like. No ants, empty chambers. The Redwood Warriors' queen, all the workers, and babies were gone. This was a very big problem.
Ant apocalypse.
Please subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon. Welcome to the AC family. Enjoy. But don't worry, AC family, I knew exactly where they were. They were there, in their water reservoir test tube. The colony had decided to move out of their nest, but the ants moving out of their nest wasn't the very big problem I was talking about. After all, young ant colonies do well living in test tubes, and the Redwood Warriors were actually raised in one since the start. The big problem, AC family, was why the ants moved out. The nest was perfectly hydrated and moist, so it wasn't a humidity issue. The issue, guys, was this. Have a look. Mold.
Ew.
Mold. And more
Too
mold.
humid.
The nest had gone foul with mold. If you've been watching the channel over the past few weeks, we've been watching these fuzzy mold clumps grow in size more and more over time. Though it's not a direct threat to the ants decided it was time to move to a cleaner area, which is what ants typically do in the wild once mold takes a hold of their nest
Mold
chambers.
takes a hold.
Oh, it looks like my camera lights have caused the ants to decide to move back into the nest now. I see them carrying brood in. But the problem is, in the wild, all the mold growing in an ant nest would be dealt with through nature's cleaning creatures, like mites, springtails, and isopods, which would eat all this junk. But here in this ant farm, it's pretty sterile and devoid of such a cleanup crew. Actually, wait. AC family, I take it back. See that there? That is a mite. Mites like these actually eat fungus
How do they get
and
in there?
decaying matter, so they would help the ants keep the nest clean. I was happy to see this, because it meant that soil creatures were now beginning to file in from the new outworld we gave the ants last week. This outworld, we call Crimsonia, was meant to foster a growing population of cleanup creatures, like mites, to keep the Redwood Warriors' nest mold-free. But there definitely weren't enough mites or other cleanup creatures here yet. These random isolated mites were not enough to handle the mold growing in the nest,
So what are we
which was
gonna
now
do?
at the point where it was bothering the ants enough to move into their drinking water test tube. I also noticed the ants back in their nest home vigorously licking all surrounding surfaces clean of mold spores. Ant saliva contains antifungal properties,
Interesting.
so the ants had to make sure every spot was licked clean, as well as the brood. They couldn't afford to lose the young to mold, especially dangerous in a home where mold was allowed to grow unchecked. And AC family, look at this. Here is last week's cricket meal, also being taken over by mold. And though I do see a springtail there, but it still wasn't enough. There was clearly a biological imbalance favoring mold growth within this ant living space.
Humidity
And so, AC
and
family,
it's enclosed.
I think you guys will love what
No.
I did next to solve our mold issue. And more importantly, who I decided to bring back to the channel. It's time we bring back some friends from the Antiverse. 5 months ago, some of you might remember the creation of the Isopodium. It was a magical world filled with some of the most amazing cleanup soil creatures known as isopods of various types and color phases, including gray, orange, white, koi, and the roly-poly type isopods. The garden-inspired Isopodium was pristine and the perfect breeding grounds for an isopod population. Well, AC family, prepare to be shocked when you see what the Isopodium looks like today. AC family, behold, the Isopodium 5 months later. It's practically unrecognizable now. Now, when I say the Isopodium exploded, I mean it exploded. What started off as a population of about 100 or so isopods has exploded to a population of tens of thousands. What used to be a beautiful garden was now a landfill full of dead acacia leaves, which they've been eating. And it does seem that the predominant genetic phenotypes that made it through the interbreeding of color phases were the orange and gray. Babies start off looking white, but then change color later. I didn't see any white or koi-colored isopods anywhere. But needless to say, the Isopodium population has truly been flourishing in the Isopodium. They had a very extensive underground network of tunnels and leaves, with multiple floors and varying moisture levels. What's cool is they seem to only want to eat the green part of the dead leaves, but leave the veins on the leaf, which leaves behind a neat venation pattern, a beautiful natural work of art. Seeing the isopods now, I could truly appreciate just how much they were masters at cleanup of dead and decaying material in the forests they're from. And what's awesome is, there's a layer in the Isopodium that is a mix of decaying leaf veins and isopod poop that is just awesome growing medium and fertilizer for plants. It's known as humus. If I were to plant a plant inside the Isopodium now, it would truly grow quickly and prolifically because of this humus layer. Now, I wasn't sure if the isopods would eat the mold growing in the Redwood Warrior's nest, as they're more well known to eat decaying plant or animal matter and droppings of animals. If ever, isopods living in and around the Redwood Warrior's nest would at least eat up any garbage left behind by the ants, so mold doesn't start in the first place. But there were other creatures in the Isopodium that I did know would help eat up mold, and they were these. Springtails. Those little white quick creatures, known as springtails, are pretty much like the rats of the ant world. They eat up anything, and are well known to ant keepers and terrarium builders the world over as important cleanup creatures to have in a living space containing animals and plants. They don't harm the ants nor animals living with them. They reproduce quickly, and best of all, they feast on mold. If you look around the Isopodium, you will not spot a clump of fuzzy mold anywhere, despite the environment being moist and perfect for mold growth. This Isopod Springtail tag team was thorough and effective at cleanup. And so, AC family, going back to our beloved carpenter ants, the Redwood Warriors, and their moldy ant nest, this was the solution to our big problem. Our Isopodium contained everything we needed to help solve our mold issue. We needed to introduce a population of isopods and springtails into our living system in order to eat up the mold and the mold-supporting ant garbage. It was time to seed our ant setup with cleaning creatures, so the ants could live in a nest that was much more like that of ants in the wild, nesting in a rotting log on the forest floor or underground within the soil. But first, AC family, before we go ahead and add our soil creatures to the Redwood Warrior setup, there's something I need to share with you guys real quick. Speaking of ants digging nests underground, you guys must check out this epic ant simulation strategy mobile game I've been checking out lately, the first of its kind. It's got a variety of different fantasy ants in it. Through gacha, you can easily get advanced special ants, like the ever-rare Banshee panda species. You design your own anthills and watch your ants living in them, much like we do in my videos. Without getting too deep into it, no pun intended, you can upgrade your queen, expand the nest, and discover new worlds. It's also got scorpions, spiders, and other beasts. Above ground, there's also lots to see like beehives, crayfish, and even dragon eggs. I hear it's currently got over 20 million downloads worldwide and has entered the top of the charts in multiple regions. The folks at The Ants Underground Kingdom have been kind enough to sponsor this episode of the Ants Canada Ant Channel and have informed me that it's the best time of the year to download The Ants Underground Kingdom. Just use the redemption code I've put in the description box to get rewards. The game has prepared a bunch of benefits for players on Christmas. So guys, go enjoy the world of ants through the Ants Underground Kingdom mobile game today. Alright, AC family, let's do this. I went into the isopodium and began to dig a little through the leaf litter to expose the humus layer. Look at all those soil creatures scurrying about. Don't worry, soil minions, you will love where I'm going to place you. I dropped a handful of humus and leaf litter into Crimsonia and proceeded to organize the rubble. Looking into Crimsonia, my heart was delighted to see all the little soil creatures crawling around, seeking hiding spots in their new place. Isopods scurried around. I even spotted some new mites crawling around. And a pair of baby isopods had no idea they were in a new place and were startled by the sudden commotion of a large hand gathering them up and dumping them around. And best of all, a ton of springtails had now been seeded into Crimsonia, which would truly help with mold. For a long while, I watched as all the new soil creatures began exploring Crimsonia, their new home. They were no longer Isopodians, but were now officially Crimsonians. The lands were now a lot more natural, biologically speaking, and would soon create a better biological balance within the Redwood Warriors' kingdom. But AC family, our work was not done. There was one more thing I needed to do, and it had to do with the nest itself. I placed some humus and leaf litter directly inside their ant tower. And there goes an isopod through the tube. This was expected, as the tube would also allow the isopods and soil creatures to travel to and from Crimsonia, as they please. And another cool thing, this isopod is one of the now rare and remaining koi-type isopods. Cool!
Pokemon.
Having a layer of humus and leaf litter along with all its soil creatures on top of the nest would truly benefit the Redwood Warriors. Looking at the colony below, and it does seem like the presence of an isopod has somewhat startled the colony a bit. The isopod wasn't too worried about the ants and was more eager to explore the nest interior. And look, a springtail, which looked like it was already munching on edibles within the nest walls. The ants seemed a bit surprised to smell the layer of humus. But they'll get used to it. All of this is 100% natural to them and components of their environment in the wild. I could already see mites and springtails infiltrating the nest and doing their work. This was awesome. I did the same into the ant nest of the Ebony Army. The humus layer with soil creatures would surely benefit the colony for the same reasons, although the nest isn't so moldy as that of the Redwood Warriors yet. But it was funny watching isopods enter the nest and a worker totally going berserk on it. Seems the Ebony Army wasn't as willing to share its nest space with strangers. The ant sprayed formic acid at the isopod and proceeded to bite it, which eventually sent the isopod off running. I knew in time they'd get to be friends. And that was it, AC family. We just made our ant nests much more sustainable and livable for our ant colonies living in their ant towers. For me, since ants are still very much so wild animals, I've always felt it was important when housing ants to simulate their environment in the wild as best we could. And in the wild, ants, or any other living creature for that matter, aren't solo independent beings. By nature, all of life is connected to other life. making up a beautiful tapestry of interdependent creatures, all serving a function in an evolutionary and beautiful dance. I feel we've done something truly awesome today, AC family. Great work, guys. Before we head out, I just wanted to remind everyone that these ant towers, as well as our hybrid nest minis, are at 20% off at antscanada.com until January the 1st. So pick yours up today. Use the coupon code AntLoveForever21 to get a free ant book as well. Just add it to your cart. Looking forward to you guys keeping ants with me, because ant keeping is truly like owning a beautiful piece of nature in your home. I don't expect our ants to be moving out anytime soon again. Something tells me they'll love staying put in their new, biologically leveled up homes. Until the next time we visit these awesome and growing carpenter ant kingdoms, thank you for watching and supporting the ants. It's Ant Love forever.
They put the new tweet up. Please go like, comment, and retweet chat. I'd appreciate it. Go check out the tweet on the Amouranth Twitter. Okay.
This is my new starting colony of carpenter ants, and they don't know it yet, but I'm about to give them an awesome new place to live, and you guys will love how they reacted to it. Welcome to the Ants Canada Ant Channel. Please subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon. Welcome to the AC family. Enjoy. The ants within this test tube are up for quite a treat. And I think you will love how our ants react to the special new home I'm giving them. Watching ants move into a new home is truly one of the most gratifying things in the ant keeping hobby. And by the end of this video, you'll see why. But one of the things I managed to catch on my 4K camera was a shocker I completely didn't expect. I'll be needing your help, so stay tuned for all that coming up. Now, before we go ahead and give our growing ant colony their new home, let's have a look at the progress of our ant colony since we last saw them a week ago. This here is the colony's founding test tube, in which the colony has been living since the moment they were born, just a few months ago. The colony has about 30 or so workers now, all huddled into this founding test tube. And the only member of the colony who has ever known the outside world is the queen. Can you spot her? It can be tricky. There she is. See the wing scars on her back? Though some of the major workers are quite large and look similar, only the queen bears these wing scars, left behind from when she mated during her nuptial flight a few months ago and broke off her wings before being placed into this test tube to birth the starting colony. Her Royal Highness has been gracious enough to come out and allow herself to be seen by us. Isn't she gorgeous? She still needs a name, so please leave your name suggestions in the comments. Let's make her name a great one. I just love her caramel cherry color. And check out the detail of her compound eye. One thing I noticed about her that makes her unique is that she seems to have lost half an antenna, perhaps from a past flight or injury during nuptial flight. Not sure, but I'm happy it's not negatively impacting her too much from fulfilling her very important role in the colony, which you're about to see here. In the clearing of ants, what we see now is her latest batch of eggs. What a miracle, right? These eggs were laid just over the past 2 or 3 days, and some have even already hatched into larvae. Amazing to think that in just a few weeks, each of these eggs will be an adult ant. Now, AC
That's
family,
crazy.
this might surprise you. Huddling nearby is this black wasp-like member of the colony. If you're new to ants, guys, this is a male ant. And no, it's not the queen's husband who fathered this colony. Daddy ant died many months ago after mating with our queen. Also why there are technically no
all they're
kings
good
in
for.
the ant world. This handsome devil is actually the queen's firstborn son. He's just waiting around to breed
The
during
crown
this year's
prince.
nuptial flight later in the year. As time goes on, our queen will produce more and more male ants, like him, as well as a fleet of virgin queen ants with wings, who will all be leaving the nest together on nuptial flight day to breed and start the ant life cycle all over again. But as cute and promising as this ant colony of ours is, there are a few problems. Look here. As you can see, the cotton of their test tube is molding. Though the ants have tried to keep as clean and sterile as possible, the cotton eventually does mold. The ants create garbage sites, which end up further feeding the mold. And on top of that, the firstborn ants have already begun to die off. There's a dead ant there. And here. The ants have placed them together to create a graveyard corner, and this has also led to more mold in their test tube. Now check this out, AC family. This will become important later on. If you look into the mold mass, you will see that there are tiny creatures living in it. These are mites, and they're eating up decaying matter and mold, which is a great thing. These mites are like the ants' biological janitors. But even the mites can only clean up so much. I knew our carpenter ants needed a new home at this stage of their evolution, and I had the perfect plan. It's time we give our ants their brand new home. AC family, behold this highly useful contraption.
The fuck?
This here is called an AC test tube portal from antscanada.com. For me, this is an absolute must-have for ant keeping of starting colonies because it serves two very important functions, which you'll see in a moment. It has 4 openings, 2 on
Trap
both
them in
sides,
there.
and comes with a perforated lid for ventilation, with a very handy feeding chute, also with its own lid, so you don't always have to lift the entire lid off. For this move, I'll also be needing 2 AC test tube adapters, also from antscanada.com. This one with a more constricted end, and this one with an open end, both of which fit right into the test tube portal like so. For the other 2 holes, I'll be plugging them up with AC plugs, which are also perforated for ventilation. And finally, it's time to show you their brand new epic home. Another test tube. Okay, not the hugest change, but it's definitely an upgrade. This is an AC test tube, specially designed for ant keeping, as it's super spacious and has these special teeth that keep it from rolling around on a table and unnecessarily disturbing the colony. This is a cleaned, reused AC test tube that I used for our Phoenix Empire back in the day. So it's a special test tube for me that I hope our carpenter ants will love as well. I'll need to create a fresh new test tube setup for them. So I filled the test tube up to this guideline, popped in a cotton ball, and done. The ants' new home was ready. Now in any ordinary circumstance, I would connect this new test tube to the test tube adapter with the wider opening. But in this case, because we're trying to encourage the ants to leave their old home and into this new test tube, I'm going to connect it to the test tube adapter with the smaller opening. Because ants like their nest enclosed, with less air movement. So with the new test tube having a smaller opening, and their current moldy test tube having the larger airy opening, we increase the likelihood of the ants wanting to move out and into their new test tube. And now, AC family, we've come to the moment of truth. Let's attach the ant colony's dirty test tube to this test tube adapter, leading to their new AC test tube portal and clean test tube setup. Now remember, the test tube they're currently in is the only space the ants have ever known. So this will be the colony's first taste of the outside world and freedom. Are you ready? Wish me luck. Here we go, removing the first cotton blocker. And now for the big challenge. It seems there are ants and a cocoon attached to the remaining cotton. So I slowly and carefully pulled the cotton out. But for this last bit, I had no choice but to pinch off a bit of it with the cocoon attached. And done. I wasn't worried about this cocoon though, as one of the ants would surely come pick it up. But let's watch the ants explore Immediately the ants emerged from the opening and into the big space of our test tube portal with curiosity and awe. The ants wandered around and headed back into the nest to tell the others. They stopped to frequently clean their antennae, which ants do to improve their sense of smell, especially in new spaces, kind of like picking your nose to smell things better. But at the nest, news of the new outside world was beginning to cause a bit of a buzz at the colony. The queen, however, was instinctively staying put for now, but was made aware that some of her workers had left the nest for the very first time of their lives. But the entire colony as a whole wasn't completely convinced the news of the outside world was worth getting excited about just yet. As expected, a worker came to bring the lone cocoon back to the nest, and then it happened. A curious ant found the small opening to our newly prepared test tube setup, and it instantly went back to inform the others. Just when I thought the move was about to become official, strangely, 5 minutes later, it seemed the hype of new territory had died down. In fact, the colony had moved deeper into their moldy test tube. Now, AC family, here's where I'll show you the second useful function of this AC test tube portal. A place for food. How about a tasty morsel to lure out our ants? I bet they'd love this freshly cut up superworm, which they've never had before. I placed it into the test tube portal. A worker smelled the superworm and emerged, but didn't seem to notice it. A few came out to check out the funky smell, but the ants didn't seem interested in it. Okay, so it seems the superworm was a bit of a flop plan at luring out our ants. The colony was determined to stay put, and the queen was certainly not going anywhere.
Let me go
I
check
decided
on
to leave
Mochi.
the colony alone
I'll
for
be
the
back.
night and head to bed as it was
Be back. I'm gonna check my bunny.
late. And hopefully we would find the ants all moved into the new test tube by early morning. The toads were now awake, but they had no idea of the epicness ahead. I carefully collected each toad and placed them into this container of fresh water to cleanse them
Okay.
for their homecoming. One by one, I collected
check.
them each by hand, searching carefully through the moss until I finally
Deconstruction.
collected
Now we're
all
back.
15 frogs. Look at them! Time to take you to your new home, my death sprites. And here they were, sitting atop the Hacienda del Dorado, and I couldn't help
this a
but
froggy
feel
one?
a variety of emotions. I felt joy that Project Cloverfield B was making its final execution now. Relief in light of all the trouble it took for us to get here. And gratitude that I had chosen to not give up on our plans. And these death sprites. Okay. They were clearly eager to be released. Let's get to it. First in is Andy Warhol. Next, Pablo Picasso and Vincent van Gogh. Andy, Pablo, and Vincent stood completely still in a daze. Next, I added in Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, and Henri Matisse. Wow! Leonardo went to hide completely underwater. Henri and Michelangelo were just chilling like villains. Vincent was way back there under the waterfall. Next was Jackson Pollock, Edvard Munch, Claude Monet, and Rene Magritte. The frogs were loving it. Pablo was just chilling on the beach, and Claude floating on his water lettuce raft. And my Michelangelo, look at you mountain climbing the Golden Springs. How appropriate that you're up there. Henri found a cozy spot to hang within the Talanja, while Leonardo, Pablo, and Claude continued to enjoy the calm shallows, waiting for the final death sprites to be added. Salvador Dali and Yayoi Kusama, Rembrandt, Frida Kahlo, and finally, Raphael. And that was it! The death sprites were in! And from the looks of things, they were quickly getting used to their brand new surroundings. Pablo was quick to find dry land and found his beachfront home under some moss. Salvador loved his waterfall view, but it didn't beat Michelangelo's mountainside penthouse suite up in the Golden Springs. The death sprites could now set up their stations, and I couldn't wait to watch them perform their work at eliminating
Death Sprite's such an
mite-infected
edgy
ants.
name.
It was the first night of the Death Sprites.
It's like a band.
Yayoi had found his outpost on some water lettuce. Chillin' in the mosses of our marsh was Claude, ready to take on the ants. There's Henri and Rembrandt
Yeah, little
in a
Mochi's
cozy spot
okay
in the
today.
marsh.
Just healing.
And look up there. Vincent wanted to go station himself by the wet mosses of the waterfall shelf. Also awake and ready to feed, up in the rocks, was Michelangelo. He was committed to catching something tonight. And so was Pablo, who patiently waited for something to pass by. And alas, the hour had come that the ants were emerging. Leonardo had his eye on this ant, which appeared to be lost and disorientated. But Yayoi was also eyeing this promised meal. Mites covered the ant's body from head to foot, which meant the ant was conveniently distracted. Just a little closer, Yayoi thought, and he could catch it. But he couldn't
I've
strike
never
too
seen
early,
ants with this long of
or it might
legs.
get away.
This is just the camera,
Here it
and I
comes.
never noticed. Looks like they have like shorter
Oh, no.
legs.
It got away, but now it was Leonardo's chance for a meal. And... oh! Here it comes! Could this get any easier? Right into my mouth!
Ew.
Ah! My eye! The startled ant got away, but I didn't fret, because as the night went on, I enjoyed watching our Death Sprites' successful catches. Michelangelo, Claude, Pablo, and guess who else I spotted? Hiding out by the wood. It was that one original Death Sprite who would always watch me from the shadows. He was a witness to all the troubles I went through this week. But after having surely met his new toad family, I'm sure he was now at peace. And so I named him Bob Ross. Bob was in my mind a good symbol of patience, perseverance, and triumph. Eat and be merry, Ross. I fulfilled my promise. It's been a whole week since I've added our Death Sprites to the new Hacienda del Dorado, and the refreshing waters of our pond have retained its water and continue to provide moisture to our plants, aquatic animals, and frogs. I cannot begin to express how satisfying it was to enjoy witnessing the success of a project which took so long to perfect. I knew our waters were clean despite 18 toads living about, as our fish and shrimp were vivacious and healthy. Over time, I began to notice less and less ants within the Hacienda del Dorado. Had it meant that the Death Sprites were successful at pulling off Project Cloverfield B? I don't know for sure yet, but in case there were no more ants, I made sure to always lay pieces of fruit around the territories to attract droves of fruit flies, who also enjoyed stationing themselves conveniently around the pond, which was perfect for our Death Sprites. I even caught the cleverest of toads, waiting around the fruit for flies to land. Needless to say, these high IQ toads were the fattest of the bunch. I also supplemented their diet with baby roaches, so the toads could have their fill. It was amazing to be part of the coming together of this magnificent piece of nature. And although it came with a lot of trials and reworking of plans, the biggest thing I learned from all this was that if you really want something to happen, if you want to achieve something truly great, it takes some real hardcore perseverance and commitment to perfection. And once you're all done, and you've reached your desired end, you'll look back at all the work you've done in awe and gratitude. I realized today I just needed to promise to do my best, and even Mother Nature was willing to wait for me to get it right. Don't get any ideas, Michelangelo. It's just moss. Wait, what's that noise? Why, welcome, Hades. I'm pleased you finally decided to join us. Alright, AC family, so much! Man, this episode is definitely one of my favorites on the channel, and also one of the longest, so thank you for watching till the end. But what a mission to pull off! I believe we got what we wanted, and then some. It looks like the Death Sprites have completed their task. And hey! Spread the news that Hades has finally arrived, which means the Rhino Beetle games are ready to begin. Sound off in the comments which team you are, and champion your chosen Rhino Beetle gladiator, because in the next episode, it's all going down. Yeah! So guys, be sure to smash that subscribe button and bell icon now, so you get notified at every single upload, and join us for the 2019 Rhino Beetle Games. And hit the like button every single time, including now. Trust me guys, you will want to be part of this super fun and educational experience. If you're new to the channel and want to catch up on all your Ants Canada lore, feel free to binge watch this complete storyline playlist here, which traces the origins of all the ant colonies of the Ant Room, so you can follow their stories and better appreciate how these ant kingdoms came to be and why we love them so much. AC Inner Colony, I have left a hidden cookie for you here if you would just like to watch both some extended play footage of the new Hacienda del Dorado, the Toads, and as promised, a bonus video for the week with a brief update on some of the other ant kingdoms and creatures in the ant room. Seeing as these past couple of videos have taken twice as long to make, so I wanted to provide an extra bonus video for the week because I love you guys that much. Thank you for being part of the Antiverse. And now it's time for the AC question of the week. Last week we asked, what is the name of the toxin produced by toads? Congratulations to Prozone Kiddo, who correctly answered Bufotoxin. Congratulations Prozone Kiddo, you just won a free ebook handbook from our shop. In this week's AC question of the week, we ask, why was the small original pond not suitable for 18 toads? Leave your answer in the comment section, and you could also win a free ebook handbook from our shop. Hope you can subscribe to the channel as we upload every Saturday at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Please remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed this video to help us keep making more. It's Ant Love forever.
Bet called me for Nox Steam and freezing. It was like, I'm returning a call. I'm like, I didn't know, 'cause she didn't say it first. I was like, what is it about? And she's like, oh, maybe it was your sister. They didn't leave their number though. And I'm like, and then,
Wait,
and then she
what's that
scheduled
noise?
it with me. She's told me they got 10 straws, which is 2.5 breedings. I'm like, that's what that makes sense. Not 10 pups. My gosh. Like 2 breedings.
Why, welcome, Hades.
To have a breeding like
I'm pleased you finally
half the
decided
straws that they would
to join
recommend for a
us.
breeding, because they use about like 5 minimum. It's like, is what they recommend or something like that, or up to 5. They just did it like between 3 to 5. Something like that. Something weird like that. But anyways, yeah.
My channel and hit the bell icon. Welcome to the AC fam. Enjoy.
They got like 10 full straws. And
A motionless
some,
Hades
like, half
lay
straw.
still on the surface of the soil. Limbs limp.
I don't know why
and
it's so hard for them to
sickle-shaped
relay
tarsal
information to
claws,
me. I don't
looking
get it.
like razor-sharp hooks glistening in the light. Oh, AC family, we have some movement. Look, his antennae quivering ever so slightly to smell the air on his first day above ground. I'm not too sure why Hades lay relaxed like this on his back, but I was certain he was finding the crisp air of the overworld invigorating and life-giving. Can you imagine being underground in darkness your entire life, and then emerging to greet a strange but alluring world above? But There are so many reasons why the arrival of Hades here means so much to us. In fact, we, the AC family, have been waiting for this moment for months. It seems like yesterday it was just Thanksgiving, and I was prepping some fattened rhino beetle grubs for the slaughter as a feast for all the hungry ant colonies of the ant room. But boy, am I glad I couldn't close down those blades of death to kill the naked and defenseless beetle larvae on that fateful evening. It's funny how nature plays out, often with such irony, because these rhino beetles actually went on to save the Golden Empire, one of our longtime OG ant colonies that were on the verge of complete extermination via blood-sucking mites by lending their own predatory hypoaspis mites to their life-saving quarantine. These rhino beetles overall have been an absolute blessing to the Antiverse. Wouldn't you guys say? But AC family, before we move on with what everybody's been waiting for, i.e. the games, I happen to have another surprise I need to show you. Have a look. It seems Hades was not the only newcomer this week. I assume most of us may have forgotten that there was another beetle developing quietly on the side. A female. I could tell this new female emerged when I wasn't looking because the soil had been moved around. We didn't give her a name because she was young and we weren't sure if she'd be arriving on time for the games. But turns out, she wasn't missing this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. She will now be named Artemis, after the Greek goddess of the wilderness, bringing our female count to 4. Freshly rotting banana has been placed within the chambers of the rhino beetles tonight, because finally, the time has come, and the beetles will be needing all the energy and nourishment they can get, for tonight marks the start of the biggest, most epic event in the history of the Antiverse, the very first Rhino Beetle Games 2019, an Olympic-style beetle competition that will blow your mind. Most of you guys already have chosen a team among the 7 male Rhino Beetle gladiators. But if you haven't, don't worry, for you'll be able to choose a team in a little bit. Even I've selected what team I'm part of. Guys, it's time to have some fun. It's the eve before the Rhino Beetle Games, and in the silence of the ant room, I watched as the beetles began to emerge from their slumber, coming to the surface to feed. Little did these beetles know what was up ahead for them was something that would change their lives forever. And first up to change were these growing chambers, which we called the Chambers of Sudan, named after the last male northern white rhino who passed away last year. These chambers have served their purpose at providing a safe haven for these rhino beetles to mature, from just babies to fully formed adults. But these beetles no longer needed rearing chambers, which by now have become quite lived in over the past 5 months. Prior to this huge event up ahead, it was time to give our gladiators some new royal accommodation so they could truly live like heroes. AC family, behold the Sudan Suites. Each of these luxurious condos are specially designed to house rhino beetles, and as you can see, they are each customized and branded with the official badges of our gladiators, completely ready to house them. These will be the new homes of our rhino beetles throughout the competition, until the ultimate winner, along with all the females, move into the prized beetle estate. But more about that later. I was excited to move the gladiators in, but first, there was one final preparation needed to give these Sudan Suites the 5-star prestige of which we boast. Only the finest of cocoa peat, imported from the ambrosial coconut plantations of the Philippine archipelago, which suffice to become the luxurious, pillowy beddings of our rhino beetle gladiators, prepared with crystal rain waters to produce the world's best substrate in which our VIP beetles should be living and sleeping. And voila! Look at that cocoa peat. Does that not just scream beetle glamour? I think so. I placed the substrate carefully into each of the Sudan Suites. And then suddenly, it was time to welcome the Rhino Beetles into their new homes. And this, AC family, is now our chance to get a closer look at each of your chosen Rhino Beetle gladiators. Bring out the gladiators! In this bowl, we shall meet and admire our gladiators, starting with Ares. Look at him go! Ares is a strong beast with a solid build and a dark chestnut brown color. He's got great energy and is quite agile, even on this slippery surface. As he lays still, we can see that he sports an impressively sized horn. Team Ares, behold your champion! If you're Team Ares, sound off in the comments to cheer on your gladiator. And don't forget to use the hashtag Team Ares. Next, we meet Apollo. My AC family, he's a fast one. He's actually the littlest of all the male rhino beetles. But look at him go! He's quick and nimble, very effective on his feet. He sports beautiful reddish-brown elytra. Now Apollo has a rather tiny horn, but it seems what he lacks in physique, he makes up for in athleticism. Another thing that makes Apollo special is that he was the first to donate his hypoaspis mites for our experiment, which sought out to discover if the hypoaspis mites on the bodies of these beetles could be used to eradicate the Golden Empire's mite problem, which ultimately led on to save them. Guys, if you're Team Apollo, sound off in the comments to cheer on your heroic gladiator. Remember the hashtag. Up next, we have a crowd favorite. The audiences are roaring as we welcome Poseidon. And holy Sudan, Poseidon is absolutely massive, easily among the biggest of the male rhino beetles. This juggernaut sports huge horns both top and bottom. He's quite strong and has a lot of energy as he moves around this bowl. Poseidon exudes unstoppability. If you're part of the fandom that is Team Poseidon, sound off in the comments for your gladiator, and don't forget the hashtag. Moving along, we have our next great gladiator, Hephaestus. As soon as I put him down, he stood completely still. He looked a little low energy and almost sad. Could it be because he knew he had the least fans rooting for him? With Team Hephaestus making up less than 1% of hashtags so far? He didn't have the biggest horns, nor the biggest build, nor beautiful elytra color, like the other boys. It was for this reason that Hephaestus has become the official underdog of the competition, and also my personal vote to win the Rhino Beetle Games. Hey, you better believe I'm gonna partake in these games too. And admittedly, I'm a sucker for the underestimated and distraught. AC family, if you're also Team Hephaestus, let's make some noise for our gladiator and boost his morale so he can take the win. Let's make it so the competition can't ignore our hashtag in the comments. Next up, we've got Dionysus. Now Dionysus was actually the second lowest in the popularity votes. But for you 4% who have actually been championing Team Dionysus from the start, I think you'll be very pleased to see him now. Flipped over, we can see that he bears a massive hypoaspis mite population. His body houses an entire country of hypoaspis mites on his chest. Wow! It does look kinda repulsive if you're new to rhino beetles, but just a reminder that these are predatory hypoaspis mites that eat bad mites, not parasitic mites. They're our friends. You'll also be happy to know that Dionysus sports one of the thickest and most solid horns in the game. That girth though! He displays strength, energy, a gorgeous exoskeleton, and we now know is popular with the mites. If you're Team Dionysus, let the wine overflow and sound off in the comments for your gladiator. And next up, we have Zeus. And wow, the grip on him was just insane. It took me a while to pry him off, and his leg spines really hurt. But as soon as his huge body hit our bowl, Zeus suddenly regained his composure and took on a surprising air of majesty. OMG, look at this, AC family! Hypoaspis mite skated gracefully across his perfectly polished elytra as he began to slow trot, almost king-like and stately, around the bowl. Like the Greek ruler of the gods he was named after, Zeus was truly an alpha beetle, and he knew it. Oh, look at him bow for you! What a showman! If you're Team Zeus, sound off in the comments to cheer on your gladiator. And last but not least, garnering the next biggest fan base, after Poseidon, I present to you our youngest of the males, Hades, the crush of the people. For those of you who call Team Hades even before actually seeing him in his adult form, behold, turns out your gladiator Hades is the biggest of all male rhino beetles in the games. Look at the size of those horns. Wow! Hades turned out to be a gorgeous Adonis of a beetle. Huge horns, the biggest we've ever seen. And despite his youth, it seems Hades does not fall short in strength, speed, nor agility. And right before leaving the bowl, he looks out at us, winks his antennae, and takes a bow. Hey, did he just steal that move from Zeus? Team Hades, sound off in the comments for your gladiator, another crowd favorite who is officially breaking hearts around the world. What a flirt! And that AC family is all 7 of the competing male rhino beetle gladiators. But before you guys start switching your allegiances to other teams, perhaps to gladiators with the bigger horns or more athletic builds, let me remind you that body nor horn size necessarily guarantees victory in these rhino beetle games. How so? Alright, so if you're new here, here is a rundown of how these rhino beetle games will work. See it as a sort of Rhino Beetle Olympics meets Rhino Beetle Amazing Race, with a series of competitions that will act as both rewards for the top winners and elimination rounds for the bottom losers. The Rhino Beetle games will be composed of a series of 6 elimination rounds of specific challenges that will test Rhino Beetle skills, utilized in real-life situations in the wild. All 7 males will compete against each other in these 6 challenges, which will test their innate strength, agility, speed, and other proficiencies that help rhino beetles survive in the wild. Each challenge will allow us to get a glimpse of just how magnificent these beetles are as we witness their amazing displays of strength, agility, speed, etc. Now, the first place of every challenge will win a special prize that may or may not give them an upper hand for proceeding challenges, while the last place of every challenge will merit release back into the wild where they were collected. Depending on how you see it, liberation of the losers can mean that all beetles win no matter what. Now, as for what the ultimate winner of the entire Rhino Beetle games wins, I'll get to that in just a second. But first, here is the Rhino Beetle games 6 sporting events. Elimination Round 1, the Rhino Dive. Elimination Round 2, the Strength Test. Elimination Round 3, the Amazing Food Race. Elimination Round 4, Stridulation Idol. Elimination Round 5, the Search for Love. And last but not least, the final elimination round, the Joust, which will be the highly anticipated beetle fight of the century between the top 2 Rhino Beetle Gladiator finalists, taking place in the Ringo Stadium. Just to note, guys, that all Rhino Beetle game sporting events are designed with the beetle safety in mind, and you can rest assured that under no circumstances will they be put in a harmful or overly stressful situation. Even during the final Joust event, these beetles naturally wrestle by trying to knock their opponent off a landmark, like a stick or rock. The losing beetles don't die, and their exoskeletons are hard, so they don't sustain injuries. The only injury they sustain from a Rhino Beetle fight is a solid blow to their confidence, perhaps. But don't worry, I have a special prize in mind for the second prize winner too. Now, going back to my point on whether super large horns, or body, gives a male rhino beetle the upper hand at survival and mating in the wild, and furthermore, at winning in our rhino beetle games, it's questionable. You see, large conspicuous horns might make beetles easier to spot by predators. It might be an encumbrance when trying to travel or run away. It might even be harder to dig.
She ripped up the wire protecting the board. She's trying. She is trying. Destructive baby.
With Who knows? But we'll be able to gain more insight and
Crazy.
answers to these curious questions while these great 2019 Rhino Beetle games is in progress. And AC family, here's where our epic participation comes in. The reason I'm reminding everyone to use their team hashtag in the comment section, indicating which gladiator they're rooting for, is because I'm going to keep track of who is rooting for who. And at the end of these games, I'll be giving out a special prize from the Ants Canada
Why?
shop
'Cause
for
you can.
10 lucky subscribers. Yes, you, AC family, who have been championing the winning Rhino Beetle all this time. Choose only one Rhino Beetle gladiator to qualify, as those of you trying to choose more than one will not qualify to win the prize. And guys, also feel free to share this video with all your nature-loving friends so they too can join in on the fun. Finally, of course, you must subscribe to this channel to qualify. Now about what the grand prize is for the ultimate winner of the entire 2019 Rhino Beetle Games, the winner of the Joust event. Well, AC family, he shall inherit a Beetle Paradise, complete with space, food, guaranteed protection from predators in the security of our ant room, and of course, the female Rhino Beetles to breed with. And speaking of which, AC family, it's time we meet our lovely madams. Behold, Artemis, our youngest lady, dark and quaint. Athena, nimble and smooth. Aphrodite, who posed for us, so we could bask in the glory of her beauty. And when I got to Hera, what I discovered as I dug into the soils shocked me. I'm sad to announce that Hera, though seen emerging on a few nights, had sadly passed away. How sad. Guess this is the harsh reality in nature. Sometimes, some beetles don't make it. And so, our female count is back to 3. But don't worry guys, I had a plan to honor Hera in an immense way through these Rhino Beetle games, which you'll see later. But now, AC family, the moment we've all been waiting for.
Good morning, Antiverse! The time is 6 a.m. and you're tuned into Rocksteady FM with DJ BW.
And DJ Lady B.
Now, unless you've been living under a rock, which is pretty much the most of us, you probably have been anticipating this Titanic event.
That's right, BW. The 2019 Rhino Beetle Games are happening in just a few moments. And we've got all the best RBG coverage coming right up. So don't touch that dime. Just a reminder that the Rhino Beetle Games are brought to you by AntsCanada.com. Visit AntsCanada.com and remember, it's Ant Love forever.
You know what, Lady B? I think it's safe to say that we here at the station are pretty stoked to see Gladiator Zeus take the win today.
Oh, no way! Team Hades all the way. I want to marry him.
Okay, that's just wrong.
All the buzz and anticipation for the games has been building up to a climax throughout the entire Antiverse. All the ant kingdoms and beasts were up earlier than usual to catch this very first and pivotal event of its kind to ever grace the Ant Room. With front row seating to the games, we have the AAA Rhino Beetle females, Aphrodite, Artemis, and Athena, ready to watch the males compete and quietly cheering them on. As for our males, they were warming up on the sidelines, preparing for the first epic sporting event they were each about to partake in.
Now, this first sporting event the Gladiators are gearing up for is called the Rhino Dive, and will test these Rhino Beetles on their ability to dig into the soil.
That's right, VW. In the wild, a Rhino Beetle's ability to dig into the soil could spell life or death at the onset of a predator. And I'm interested to see which of our 7 male Rhino Beetle gladiators will prove to be the best of the best diggers.
Each of the gladiators will be placed onto a platform, upon which they will each be given 3 minutes to ultimately submerge themselves into the earth. Sounds easy, right? Well, not so fast. Under all that dirt, the entire digging field is full of obstacles, twigs, rocks, and sphagnum moss that might make digging much more challenging.
Ooh, it's gonna be tough. If any of the males fail to completely submerge themselves into the earth by the time the 3 minutes is up, They proceed to an elimination round challenge to fight for their spot to remain in the Rhino Beetle Games and ultimately the Antiverse.
All right, Lady B, it looks like the hour has come to determine the official order in which the gladiators will be competing.
Let's watch this. I'm nervous.
The Antiverse's very own Creator Worlds has prepared a bowl with each of the males' names and is sending in his griffin from the Netherworlds to choose the official order. Who will be the first of the Beetles to compete? The griffin deliberates and grabs a name. Who did she pick? Poseidon! All right. Indeed, a crowd favorite in these games. I can't wait to see how he does.
Who's this?
See, I see what you did there, VW.
Oh, it's still Ants Canada. Okay.
Following Poseidon will be Gladiator Hephaestus.
You know, he doesn't have the biggest support in the competition, but word has it, the Creator of Worlds is rooting for him.
Yeah, perhaps he just might surprise us.
After Hephaestus will be Dionysus.
Lauded as one of the most likely to win overall, according to Beetle magazine.
Is that so?
Yup. Following Dionysus, the small but heroic Apollo.
You know, I like Apollo. He's a mermanthropist, donating his mites to mite research, saving sick ants in other terrariums around the Antiverse.
Very noble indeed. Up next will be... Oh,
my ultimate crush, Hades.
Relax your pheromones, Lady B. Definitely has that it factor and is undoubtedly a crowd pleaser. I hear his management is in negotiations now for a multi-million banana movie contract.
Oh, I totally watch anything with him in it.
Following Hades will be Ares, another favorite.
I wonder if Ares is an Aries.
I guess it all depends if you count the date his egg was laid, or if you count the date he hatched from the egg. We'll have to check his Wikipedia page for that. So with Ares being second last, it means our gladiator Zeus shall be going last.
He's such a gentle beetle, that Zeus.
Yeah, he's truly distinguished and noble inside and out. I'm sure he'll put on a great show for us. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, the official order of competition in the Rhino Beetle Games.
All rise for the Rhino Beetle National Anthem.
All right, AC family, and now the moment has come. Let the Rhino Beetle Games begin! Team Poseidon, cheer on your gladiator! Go! Poseidon makes his way quickly towards the back and immediately dives into a pocket below some sphagnum moss. There is nothing stopping Poseidon now. He's almost under. And he's concealed. Wow! Poseidon finishes with a great time of 38.27 seconds. Team Hephaestus, cheer on your gladiator. Go! Let's go, Hephaestus, buddy! I mean, go, Hephaestus. He heads towards the front of the field and surprisingly freezes right at the wall. The time was ticking. Oh, come on! Start digging! Hephaestus needed to absolutely be under by 3 minutes, or he would proceed to the bottom round elimination challenge, where he would compete for his chance to stay in the games. As the time ticked on and on, Hephaestus was not going to budge. It seemed he was a bit tired and just wanted to relax, perhaps past his bedtime. Hephaestus continued to rest here, not moving, until the timer passed the 3-minute mark. Hephaestus! He failed the challenge and was going to proceed
Hephaestus.
to the elimination ring. Team Dionysus, cheer on your gladiator! Go! Dionysus raced to the front and began to climb the glass wall. No! He fell onto his back!
Oof.
Oh no! Oh, masterful recovery from the fall. He moved swiftly now to the right corner of the digging field, searching ever so carefully for the perfect spot to dig. And yes! It looks like Dionysus found a spot. He starts to dig with about 1 minute past on the clock. Team Dionysus, will your gladiator make it below the surface before 3 minutes?
Really do it.
And yes, he's in at only 1 minute and 38 seconds. Great work, Dionysus. He's safe this week. Team Apollo, cheer on your gladiator. Go! Small but terrible Apollo races to the right side. Look at him go! What a turbo gladiator! He heads straight for the moss. And attempts to climb the glass and squeezes behind the plants. Will he find a spot below ground to dig though? He still clamors to try climbing the glass. One minute. Oh, Apollo falls onto his back. Recovered. And again onto his back. Recovered. If he can't get underground soon, he too will proceed to eliminations. Alright, he now heads to the left, away from the plants. Still trying to scale the glass wall. Where is he headed? He makes his way to the front of the field now. And oh, towards the corner. And OMG, he climbs onto the ledge. I can't believe this. Look at that balance. He scurries to the other side of the field now. And like a little firecracker, is exploding forth up the sides and onto the back wall. He's really determined to climb up and not dig down. The 3-minute mark is fast approaching. And sadly for Team Apollo, it looks like your gladiator is heading to eliminations and risks being kicked out of the Antiverse and the games. Team Hades, cheer on your gladiator! Go! This huge and youngest of the beetles sprints to the right. And oh, is he digging already? Yes, he is! He's trying hard to dig down, but it looks like the obstacles are hindering him from moving vertically. He's sliding forward. Oh! It looks like he's stuck. Hades stands frozen in his tracks. Oh no! One minute passes, and Hades was not moving. Oh, he was doing so well! And as the timer ticked past the 3-minute mark, Hades, still not moving from his spot, also proceeded to the elimination round. Oh man! Team Ares, cheer on your gladiator! Go! As soon as Ares' legs hit the platform, Ares froze and began to seemingly slip around. Oh boy, Ares was not moving. Go, go, go! Finally, Ares decides to turn to the left, but slowly and cautiously begins to move across the soil. Oh, it looks like Ares is determined to take his sweet time and investigate these lands. The clock is ticking as Ares continues to snoop around and smell the earth with his antenna. With 2 minutes down, it looks like Ares is looking for a place to dig, but is really taking his time. Oh, there we go. He's starting to dig. But will it be on time? Go, Ares! He slides, trying to find the best spot to dig. The 3-minute mark is fast approaching. And oh! Sadly, Ares was unsuccessful at submerging himself by 3 minutes. Team Ares, your gladiator also risks leaving the games as he proceeds to the elimination round. And finally, Team Zeus, cheer on your gladiator! Go! Zeus stood still and took a bow to relax on the platform as Might skated across his elytra. He began to move ever so slowly to the right. It seems Zeus was also determined to take his time. This was around Rhino Beetle bedtime, chosen specifically for this event to increase the beetles' urge to dig below the soil, but also while they still had energy. But will Zeus be the 5th beetle to proceed to the elimination round? He doesn't seem to want to dig. And we're halfway through the cutoff time. And then, suddenly, Zeus turned his horn downwards and began to dig. OMG! Will he make it below the surface before the 3-minute mark? Zeus pushes and pushes, but seems to have problems finding a vertical space. He's pushing and pushing as the clock gets closer to 3 minutes. 2 minutes and 3 seconds on the clock, but a bit of his elytra are still visible. The rules state that he must be below the surface of the soil completely to count. Oh man, it's so close! 15 seconds left on the clock. Team Zeus, will your gladiator make it? And Team Zeus? He's in! Did he make it? I looked at the clock. And yes, 2 minutes and 53 seconds left on the clock. That was so close. Zeus was successful and is safe this week.
Wow, what a competition, right guys?
I can't believe my gorgeous Hades is in the bottom 4.
And my Zeus pulled through in the end. The top 3 winners of the Rhino Dive event are as follows. Zeus in 3rd, Dionysus in 2nd, and in 1st place today is Gladiator Poseidon. Congratulations to Team Poseidon. As the winner, he now earns the prestigious acclaim of holding the Great Pyramid of Hera, named in memory of one of the madams who passed away prior to the games.
What an honor that is.
As holder of the Great Pyramid of Hera for this event, Poseidon will get to enjoy his extraordinary prize of additional moistened soils, abundant with populations of soil creatures to keep his Sudan suite clean of mold, fungal infection, and ammonia for him, along with a lavish leaf shelter to lock all that delicious moisture in. Talk about posh accommodations.
Unbelievable. The added beddings will surely make him feel extra comfy for the remainder of the competition. Congratulations, all you Team Poseidon. Your gladiator performed excellently today.
That's right, Lady B. Congratulations to all the top 3. But now, as for our bottom 4, Hephaestus, Apollo, Hades, and Ares, who failed to dig within the 3 minutes, they will be proceeding on to the ultimate elimination round for the 3 remaining spots in the games. Which means we will be saying goodbye to one of these Rhino Beetle gladiators when it's all done.
AC family, before us sits the bottom 4. 3 of these Rhino Beetles shall be staying with us in the Antiverse to compete in these continuing Rhino Beetle games. And one of these gladiators shall be exiled from the Antiverse to be released back into the wild. Team Hephaestus, Team Apollo, Team Hades, and Team Ares. Here's how this battle elimination round is gonna work. AC family, behold the venue for the ominous elimination round. The digging field has been transformed into a strange garden of statues that may look random, but they each have something in common. One thing you may have noticed during the games was that some of the beetles in the heat of the moment decided not to flee nor start digging into the soils right away, but rather chose to simply keep still. Though digging into the ground in a speedy manner can help a rhino beetle increase its chances of success and survival in the wild, there is also something to be said about the beetle that chooses instinctively to keep still. You see, beetles above ground also must contend with a plethora of predators that might be able to hunt rhino beetles down by sight, like birds, large reptiles, and even primates. And so in this elimination round, our bottom 4 rhino beetle gladiators will be placed into the garden of predators. And the first rhino beetle to touch any of these predators will be the one we say goodbye to, losing his spot in the Rhino Beetle games, as well as the Antiverse. In this case, keeping still or even digging into the ground nearby will be of great benefit to the gladiators. AC family, are you ready? All the beetles will be set up on this platform and moved in. Who do you think will be eliminated and leaving the games and the Antiverse tonight? I don't know about you, but my heart was beating hard in my chest. Here goes nothing, guys. Cheer on your gladiators. 1, 2, 3, and they're off. Oh, Hephaestus and Ares keeping perfectly still in their spots. Apollo and Hades dashing off the platform. Oh, look at Apollo, barely missing that bird. But, oh no. Ah! Apollo touched one of the bird statues. Team Apollo, I am sorry. Team Hephaestus, Team Ares, and Team Hades, your gladiators are safe and shall be proceeding to compete in the next round of the Rhino Beetle Games. Apollo scratched up against the glass as we move in to make our final goodbyes to a fine gladiator. What made Apollo special was that he was responsible for us discovering the cure to our recent parasitic mite problem. And had it not been for him, it would have completely wiped out one of our oldest and most beloved colonies on this channel, the Golden Empire, who are now well on their road to recovery.
It is with heavy hearts that we say goodbye tonight to a gladiator that has not only become a friend to us, but who has also become a hero to all in the Antiverse.
Apollo, why am I crying? We'll miss you so much. We wish you well frolicking the open fields of coconut trees in your natural habitat.
And indeed, we will miss our little lightning Apollo. We watched him grow from just a little larva. And even as the littlest of the bunch, he still proved to us that he had the biggest spirit and heart. And with one now gone, there are 6 left to proceed to the next round. And the competition is guaranteed to get more and more intense. And so continues the Great Rhino Beetle Games. I'll see you all there next week. Go and feast this buddy! Woohoo! Alright guys, it seems Gladiator Apollo is heading home. Literally, he's going to be released back into the wild from where all the beetles were collected. For those of you Team Apollo, do feel free to keep playing in these games and choose a new gladiator to champion. But sadly, you won't qualify for a prize. But hey, it's all for fun anyway, right? Were you happy with the results? Guys, be sure to tune in.
In a weird way, this reminds me of like Sid from Toy Story. Just stealing toys and doing weird experiments to them and then discarding them.
Next week to catch the second round of the Rhino Beetle Games and watch
Okay.
your gladiators duke it out for the top spot and prize. For all you whose gladiators are still in the games, congratulations to your champions. Be sure to leave your comments for them to cheer them on. As rumor has it, they do read their fan mail. And remember to use their official team hashtags. And good luck to the remaining 6 on their future rounds to come. So guys, be sure to smash that subscribe button and bell icon now so you get notified at every single upload. And stay with us for these 2019 Rhino Beetle Games. And hit the like button every single time, including now. Trust me guys, you will want to be part of this super fun and educational experience. If you're new to the channel and want to catch up on all your Ants Canada lore, feel free to binge watch this complete storyline playlist here, which traces the origins of all the ant colonies of the ant group, so you can follow their stories and better appreciate how these ant kingdoms came to be and why we love them so much. AC Inner Colony, I have left a hidden cookie for you here if you would just like to watch some extended replay footage of the Rhino Beetle Gladiators. And now it's time for the AC question of the week. Last week we asked, why was the small original pond not suitable for 18 toads? Congratulations to Lucas Nguyen, who correctly answered, the original pond would be too small and the ammonia levels would rise due to the toads' waste, causing the toads to die from ammonia poisoning. Congratulations, Lucas, you just won a free ebook handbook from our shop. In this week's AC question of the week, we asked, how might keeping still help a rhino beetle survive in the wild? Leave your answer in the comment section and you could also win a free ebook handbook from our shop. Hope you can subscribe to the channel as we upload every Saturday at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Please remember to like, comment, share and subscribe if you enjoyed this video to help us keep making more. It's Ant Love forever. Guys, behold, my most epic creation in all my years of ant keeping. A Leviathan-themed terrarium, the kingdom home to my massive colony of ants, named the Leviathans. Where are the ants, you ask? Well, they're already in here, and man, was it a mission. But brace yourselves, because they're about to emerge, for I'm about to feed them for the very first time in this setup. And you guys will be mind-blown by how the entire Leviathan-themed terrarium comes to life when the ants come out to feast. This is the story of how my greatest ant colony, the Leviathans, found their new home in this, the coolest ant kingdom I've ever made. Welcome to the Ants Canada Ant Channel. Please subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon. Welcome to the AC fam. Enjoy. AC family, behold our beloved marauder ant colony, the Leviathans, whom we raised from just a tiny budding family in Queen Ant a few months ago to now about to experience a life-changing event. These ants have no idea they're about to undergo something a bit traumatic.
The Ant-Man channel.
Ant apocalypse of sorts, but it's for their own good and necessary for them to enjoy a greater and more abundant life in the new kingdom I've created for them.
How's Olivia doing?
But guys, keep on watching until the very end, as I've got a very important question to ask you, and we'll be needing your help by the end of the video. But before we get to moving the ants in, we have a bit of a problem. Okay, a big problem. Listen to this. So if you caught last week's episode, you saw that the Leviathans decided to move into a mansion I provided the colony, which I gave them a couple weeks back, because they looked as though they were outgrowing their main home, this large test tube hidden beneath a castle within their initial terrarium, named Marauder's Alley. At first, the ants rejected this mansion I gave them, deciding to stay put within their test tube, despite it getting a lot of water and food, lest they work themselves to exhaustion and end up with a lot of dead ants. So I made sure to provide them lots of water at this time, because they'd surely be needing it, especially once the great ant-pocalypse would happen, which was coming soon. For little did they know, their creator of worlds was working around the clock to perfect and prep the Leviathan kingdom. My heart jumped into my throat when the very first worker decided to transport the first member of Brood into the mansion. I needed to hurry. Another ant deciding it was time to transport Brood. And another. Pupae now. Thankfully, some ants felt it wasn't time to move and were transporting Brood back into the nest. But I knew I didn't have much time left. I stayed up all night prepping the Leviathan terrarium until the moment came to finally move the ants in. It was time for the ominous ant-pocalypse. Now, before I move the ants in, I need to show you this Leviathan terrarium. It's an epic mystical sea dragon, a Leviathan fashioned from pumice and volcanic rock and moss. Truly one of the coolest ant creations I've ever attempted on the channel. What do you guys think? Now, I had some help from a skilled rock worker friend to fashion and shape the rock to look just right, and we achieved exactly what I envisioned in my mind and plotted out in my initial sketch of the terrarium. The first thing I want to show you is this. See the fiber optic lights? I felt it gave the rock a slightly mystical character to it. And guys, the mouth of the beast. Oh, this was the coolest. It spewed out a hydrating fog that would keep the lands humid. This fog was coming from a humidifier attached at the back of the tank. It was important that since this was an open concept ant terrarium with no front glass, that the lands be kept humid. So this humidifier was programmed on a timer to turn on and off several times a day. The ants would be kept inside the setup via strategically placed talcum barriers around the edges. Now, the head was also attached via a pipe to the nest portion of the terrarium, full of their favorite digging medium, bioactive cocoa fiber. This was where the ants would be living and nesting most of the time, and my idea was for the ants to emerge from the beast's mouth and form feeding trails along the beast's body to and from their food. Marauder ants are known for their iconic and winding trails, so this Leviathan body would allow for that natural ant trailing behavior to take place. Well, in theory anyway. I wasn't at all sure if any of this would work. In my mind it would, but there was only one way to find out. It was time to move in the ants and execute Operation Ant-Pocalypse. So here was my plan. This all needed to take place in phases. This first phase was to move the main colony in the test tube first. My plan was to quickly remove that castle, then stuff the test tube and gaping hole with lots of cotton. Time to do that now. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. I quickly removed the castle and stuffed the top of the test tube with cotton. The ants panicked and ran about in fear and anger that a giant hand had dropped in from the sky and was stuffing their nest with fluffy white stuff. Ants climbed my hand and immediately began to sting me, but I had to brave the pain and focus on the task. Why didn't I think of wearing gloves? From the bottom, I carefully lifted the test tube and pulled the whole thing out, the colony within now exposed. I stuffed the tank hole with more cotton and placed the entire test tube into the nest part of the Leviathan tank. AC family, they were in. Before removing the cotton and freeing the colony into their new home, I took the time to scan the test tube. It looked like they had already moved a lot of brood out and into the mansion. But what I was really interested in was the queen. Where was she? There's an impressive group of majors? The workers were doing their very best to keep the brood group together and organized. They were scared, confused, and with their home they always knew now completely destroyed and transported somewhere foreign, they definitely were going through the greatest catastrophe of their entire lives. And that was when I spotted the queen, cloaked in her entourage who protect her and soothed her, assuring Her Majesty would be all right. The entourage ants were willing to give up their lives for her in this time of confusing crisis. She remained still and calm, watching her colony sorting out the brood. But AC family, the reason I was looking for the queen was because I wanted to take a moment to look at her for what could be the last time I might ever see her. You see, when moving an ant colony into a setup where the ants can dig away from view, once the queen is moved in, chances are we ant keepers would never see the queen again. She would be hidden away from any light by the colony, retreating only within the darkest areas of the nest, away from our view. Even if I was intending to cover this digging area part, there was still no guarantee we would ever see the queen again. So it's at this critical transitional moment that I always take the time to enjoy looking at the queen one final time. Thank you, Titanic Empress. It has been my greatest honor to watch you amass your impressive and powerful army. I promise to continue caring for you and your colony to the best of my abilities as your provider and partner. It's now time for you to enjoy the kingdom I've prepared for thee, my queen. Goodbye. Tears in my eyes, I removed the cotton and placed the entire test tube deep into the digging medium. Phase A of Operation Antpocalypse was complete. I tried to go back and look for the queen, but our Titanic Empress had already vanished, having slipped away into the darkness of the new digging medium, to the loving advice of her caring entourage. Now, in terms of all the brood, I knew it would take a few days, or possibly weeks, for them to eventually move them all out. The ants needed to excavate into the digging medium first. Overall, I couldn't believe the colony was officially in, and it warmed my heart to no end. Time for Phase B. This time with gloves, I placed another clean lid onto the mansion and lifted it out of Marauder's Alley. Don't worry, I would come back for all the ants left behind. But guys, this was the hard part. I had no choice but to just open the mansion and carve away at the digging medium to place it all into the tank. Ants climbed everywhere. I was stung incessantly, but I was surprised to find that the tunnels and chambers weren't that deep, but was impressed by how much brood they had already moved in. Now, I had to move the ants in this way because if I did it by connecting a tube to allow the ants to move themselves in, there was a pretty high chance the ants would choose to move the whole colony into this mansion and not the terrarium, since they've already covered it with homey pheromones and were about to move into it prior to this antpocalypse. I had no choice but to go the intrusive route for moving the ants in this mansion. I brushed all escaped ants into the nest area and those attacking me off my body and stepped back to witness the final stages of their antpocalypse. Just like that, the majority of the colony was in. I arranged things around because I wanted some light to enter the test tube to encourage the ants to move out of it. Eventually, when the ants were residing fully in the digging medium and settled in, I could remove all this cotton and the test tube. But definitely not now. The ants were too panicked, aggressive, and just blanketed the entire area. I also gave the colony a freshly cut up roach for nourishment in this energy-demanding time, and transported their water test tube for hydration. Now guys, this is not time-lapsed. The ants were truly racing around in panic, and of course they would, as this was truly an ant-pocalypse, traumatic for any ant colony. Thankfully, the special talcum barrier I was using for my buddy John at Ant Singapore was working like a charm, keeping the ants inside the setup. The Leviathans now had the huge task of constructing a completely new nest. But now, for the very first time, they had an enormous amount of space and digging medium to do it. They were free at last to create the dream nest with endless tunnels and chambers, free of the limitations that bound them within their cramped birth test tube. I couldn't believe the Leviathans were finally in. I've been waiting months for this moment. This was a triumph for both the ants and us, AC family. I decided to come back later, in the night, to check up on their progress. Late at night, I came back with a flashlight and marveled at how busy the ants were. The excavation of their new home had begun. Check them out. Just from the side, I could see all their extensive tunnel work through the digging medium. These ants were determined to waste no time at all. I loved watching the ants launching the biggest digging operation of their lives. Again, none of this is time-lapsed. This is normal speed. The ants eagerly and swiftly grasped whatever chunk of cocoa fiber they could and brought it up to the surface. Huge chunks the size of boulders were lugged up from below. It always amazed me how skilled ants are at digging. This nest excavation process was happening all around the territories, which meant the ants had already anointed these virgin lands as home. Now I knew this digging operation would preoccupy the ants for the next couple of days, at least, and that foraging for food would not be on their list of priorities at the moment. I believe their main priority was carving out within the ground an extensive network of caverns and chambers into which they could safely move the brood. So, I resolved to let the colony be for the next couple of days, covering the glass with a black Bristol board to encourage the ants to hopefully dig up next to the glass. If we were lucky, they would. And we could still see the workings of the inner colony, and even see the queen again. AC family, I placed some crushed insects down at the foot of the tongue. After 3 days of no food, I was certain the colony was hungry now. It was all a waiting game at this point. Were the ants going to emerge from the sea dragon's mouth, as I had hoped they would, and drag our food offerings back into the nest? Only time would tell, guys. My heart was racing with anticipation. I came back 10 minutes later and saw this. My heart nearly jumped with delight. The stench of the rotting insect carcasses had made its way to the nest and beckoned some curious and hungry scouts to the site to check it out. AC family, our plan was working so far. Once the ants identified these roaches and mealworm as food, they immediately began wafting "I found food" pheromones throughout the area. A scout was now headed back home through the mouth of the beast. Soon, a sub-major emerged to come check out the smell and rumors of food. It had a taste of a roach, and soon began to fill the area with pheromones too, to verify that, yep, food's here, guys. Ants communicate primarily by biochemicals called pheromones. There is a distinct pheromone for every possible message the ants need to communicate. And in this case, the sub-major was covering the whole area with pheromones to incite a feeding response. Now, instead of heading back home, the sub-major began to have a taste of the other roach and attempted to hack away with its powerful jaws at the legs, determined to have a head start on the food. It was amazing to see this sub-major using its jaws to attempt at chopping away at appendages that were still moving on the roach's body. I bet she knew help was coming soon. But I knew there was one thing I really needed to do in order to get the ants to come out from hiding. I needed to turn off the lights, since our leviathans preferred hunting at night. 30 minutes later, after turning on the lights, AC family, this was what I saw. Bam! A swarm! The leviathans had emerged! Yes! And as I dreamed, the trail extended out from within the mouth of the beast. But the question now was, would they carry the insect pieces back to the nest? Yes! The ants had decided to move in the mealworm first, the lightest of the three carcasses. So cool! Our plans were working perfectly. I watched in awe as the ants carried the mealworm straight into the beast's mouth, as if swallowing it. I just love when ants do exactly what I hoped they would. Next, one of the roaches was carried by the swarm and carefully hauled up the sea dragon's tongue. Go Leviathans! Go! As much as I felt a bit bad that I was making the ants work so hard for their food, I knew that this was exactly what would be happening in the wild. You see, marauder ants, once they get really hungry, launch these huge raids, where they form these massive trails which reportedly can reach over 1 kilometer in length, in really big colonies. So having the ants trail and work for their food was essential to bring out these very natural raiding behaviors. The ants began to lug the third and final roach back to the nest. Now guys, watch this. I wanted to see what it looked like within the throat of the beast. As they carried the roaches back to the nest, this is where things got really cool. There's a roach leg. The ants chose to race back with appendages they had managed to detach ahead of time. And another roach leg. And soon, the first roach. Whoa! Look at that coordination and cooperative effort. Good job, Leviathans. Peeking into the throat, the Leviathans were on their way, transporting their final roach home. Again, such an amazing process to witness. I was pretty sure these hungry ants couldn't wait to get these carcasses below ground, to start gobbling them up. Just a few moments more, and almost home. Let's time-lapse this part a bit. And finally, with one concerted lift and push over a little ledge, the ants successfully carried the final roach onto Leviathan soils. Boom! And then it was down into the nest for the final roach. Below ground, deep in the nest, the colony had worked on expanding the tunnels ahead of time in order to fit the insect carcasses within. It was truly amazing to watch the ants in a more naturalistic setup now, where the ants could better be themselves. In fact, I was so impressed with the tunnels they had already excavated on the exposed inner side of the terrarium. But what I really couldn't wait for was to see the side of the terrarium that was covered with Bristol board. I would give the ants more time to dig first. The next day, I took moss from the Leviathan's old terrarium and placed it in areas all over the body of the sea dragon. I did this in order to cover the whole body of the beast with familiar home pheromones, in hopes that it would get the Leviathans to wander further along the sea dragon's body. Yes, the ants were willing to forage at the edge of the beast's tongue, but what I really wanted to know was if the ants would wander further, perhaps to the other end of the beast's body, and even to the beast's tail. Guys, you won't believe this, but 2 hours later, I came back, and through the streams of hydrating vapor along the path I had hoped the ants would venture onto was a foraging trail. All right, it worked. I was astounded to see how far the ants were willing to trail on this night. Have a look. All the way from the mouth to the opposite end of the terrarium. The Leviathans had learned from the night before that if they wanted food, they needed to come here onto the body of the beast to find it. And so, I placed another roach here for them to find. It would only take one ant to make the discovery, and hopefully we would witness a repeat of last night's feeding procession. And eventually, one ant did, which soon attracted nearby ants to the site and sent news crawling back to the colony. I came back a few minutes later, and sure enough, a swarm had gathered to the site, and the ants began to lug the pieces on a long journey back to the nest. They needed to pull the food here, up here, all the way across, and to the beast's mouth. Again, this was a very long journey, but not something they weren't naturally capable of. It was even mind-blowing to see some small majors coming out to trail. This was special, and meant the colony was definitely hungry. In fact, upon closer inspection, I noticed the ants were foraging all areas of the sea dragon's body, along the beast's arms, and I could see foragers eagerly running all over the place. Even the tail. And so, I decided that tonight I would leave them various insect treats all around the lands for them to find on their own. Mealworms, mealworm pupae, and roaches, tucked into various places of the beast's long and winding body, including at the very end of the tail. This would be the real test to see if our setup was truly suited for our leviathans. I noticed the ants danced within the hydrating fumes of fog as they enjoyed their brand new Grand Kingdom. I initially was worried the fog coming out of the beast's mouth might disturb the ants, but no, they seemed to not mind it at all, and could be seen traveling through it, unbothered. They continued to forage and form trails through it, savoring the moisture in what would otherwise be quite dry lands. It was amazing to know that our sea dragon of rock was being fully embraced by the leviathans, in a sort of incredible yet artificial symbiosis. I just loved this new home for our ants, and truly hoped our leviathans did too. Overnight, the ants took the time to drag all the hidden goodies they found during their night's raid back to the nest, and I watched for hours in the dark as they moved these pieces back to the nest. Have a look at them carrying this mealworm pupa down into their lair, and down the insect pieces went into the leviathan's nest. Just so cool! By morning, I came to check on the dragon's body, and all the insects I had hidden for the ants to discover had been found and brought back home. Not a single insect treat was left behind. The ants made use of every single bit of nourishment. Now, AC family, there was one last thing I needed to do to fully complete this Leviathan setup. I placed in the Leviathan's old castle, taken from their former terrarium, at the foot of the Great Sea Dragon. To me, this completed the entire look of the terrarium, because in my mind, it symbolized the Leviathan's very humble beginnings. And suddenly, without warning, the Sea Dragon's lights turned on, illuminating its body like the mystical force that it was. Wow! Our rock beast was now alive. And as I stepped back to admire the beauty of our ever-majestic creation, my ant-loving heart was completely full. Seeing the small castle completely dwarfed by the huge rock beast formed such a juxtaposition that I couldn't help but realize that this entire Leviathan setup and story gave us an important message. And that message was this: it doesn't matter how small you start or where you begin, but what truly matters is where you are going on your amazing journey. And that was what this epic setup and Ant Kingdom meant to me. Speaking of which, AC family, at the start of the video, I mentioned I'd be asking you a very important question, and it's this: what should we name this new Leviathan-themed terrarium? Leave your name suggestions in the comments, and I will choose my top 5 favorites for all of us to vote on in a future video. Thank you guys so much for always being so involved in these videos, helping me with making decisions, participating in polls, and caring for these little miracles we call ants. It means a lot to me that you guys seem to love the Leviathans as much as I do. And I know, together, we can grow this Leviathan kingdom further into the true rulers of the Antiverse. So if you enjoyed this episode, please remember to hit the like button to let YouTube know you enjoy these ant videos and that they're worth sharing to new audiences. And if you haven't yet, do hit that subscribe button to continue following this ongoing story of our Leviathans and join our ever-growing AC family. I can't wait to see what's next for our beloved colony. Oh yeah, and as for the remaining ants in the old terrarium, by now they had all gathered in the remaining water test tube, as it was the only place suitable for them to nest. I just took this and placed it into the terrarium, collecting with a cotton ball any remaining stragglers. Now what I found remarkable was again the tunnels that were made on the exposed side of the nest. Even though light was fully hitting that side, the ants still tunneled on that side. No brood or queen in sight, but they still did create tunnels up against the glass where we could see them doing their thing. And AC family, that's when my mind wandered over to the other side. I wondered, all this time, the Leviathans had been given the chance to dig to their heart's desires, perhaps dug out some impressive chambers and tunnels on the covered side of the terrarium. They had several days already to do so. What would we find behind these covered walls? Would we see an amazing network of tunnels and chambers full of brood? Would we see the Queen, our Titanic Empress again, behind these walls? The idea filled my heart with excitement and anxiousness. It was time to open it up. First, this sidebar. Wow! And now, the main large wall. Hope you can subscribe to the channel as we upload every Saturday at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Please remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed this video to help us keep making more. It's Ant Love, forever.
Sorry, we were doing our daily shit talk.
Okay, no, this isn't the Lion King live-action remake. But these energetic ants, carrying pieces of cut-up leaves in a parade-like procession, are probably every ant keeper's dream. Keeping them as pets, I mean. To be honest, they're definitely one of mine. They're called leafcutter ants. And for years, I have dreamed of keeping them. Here's why. It's not only their cool behavior of carrying these pieces of cut-up leaves back to their nest, but the coolest part is actually why they are. You see, the ants are doing this because
this is the
fungus,
morning report.
lush balls of fungus. So in case you're new to the world of ants, these leafcutter ants are ancient farmers. And for 50 million years, they have been farming massive combs of fungus within their nests.
She's like my little
it's the
Zazu.
fungus.
Yeah. Zazu.
Exists together in a delicate balance. As all that makes home, we are all connected in the great circle of life. Good. That's very good.
Pay attention. Okay. I think I'm going to get ready for Twitch now. So coming out with me over there. I'm gonna try to do some bikini stuff. And maybe some reacts too. Watch the Trump-Elon debate thing later. Alright, I'll see you guys over there. Bye for now.